Time sometimes leaves marks so profound that even thousands of years cannot erase them. Carved into stones, whispered in legends, hidden in shadows. What if our understanding of history isn't entirely true? What if beneath the sands of Egypt, behind the walls of lost cities, within forgotten manuscripts, there exist stories still waiting to be told? Stories deliberately hidden from humanity, or perhaps lost amidst dust and darkness. Ancient civilizations have left us magnificent temples, colossal pyramids, mysterious monuments, and puzzles we have yet to solve. What secrets lie within the depths of the oceans, beneath jungles reclaimed by nature, and behind stone doors sealed by forgotten hands? Join me as we journey into antiquity, to unravel mysteries shrouded in time, to question accepted truths, and to discover the forgotten wonders of our ancient world. Together, we'll explore stories of lost continents, strange relics, vanished peoples, and inexplicable phenomena that challenge everything we think we know. Welcome to History's Mysteries. Are you ready to unlock the secrets of the past? Atlantis, the lost city. Did it really exist? For thousands of years, one name has captivated humanity's imagination more than any other lost civilization: Atlantis. The mere mention of this legendary city conjures vivid images of glittering temples, majestic palaces, advanced technologies, and a utopian society far ahead of its time. But beneath the layers of myth and legend, could Atlantis truly have existed? Or is it merely a philosophical allegory, a cautionary tale spun by ancient scholars? Our journey into the heart of Atlantis begins in ancient Greece, with the philosopher Plato, arguably the greatest thinker of his era. In two of his most intriguing works, the Timaeus and the Critias, Plato vividly described a powerful civilization that flourished around 9,000 years before his own time, an empire he named Atlantis. According to Plato, this island was larger than Libya and Asia combined, situated beyond the Pillars of Hercules, widely believed today to correspond to the Strait of Gibraltar. Atlantis was said to be home to extraordinary achievements in architecture, governance, agriculture, and technology. A civilization of prosperity, wisdom, and harmony, built around concentric circles of land and water, centered on an awe-inspiring metropolis of gold, silver, and orichalcum, a mysterious metal described as second only to gold. Plato's account then takes a dramatic turn. He describes how the Atlanteans became morally corrupt, obsessed with wealth and power, provoking the anger of the gods themselves. Zeus, the king of the Olympian gods, angered by the arrogance of Atlantis, decided to punish them in a single catastrophic day and night, an event so violent that Atlantis vanished beneath the sea, leaving behind only waves, whispers, and mystery. Yet, beyond Plato's writings, we find hints of Atlantis woven through countless ancient cultures. The Egyptians, known for meticulously documenting history, told Greek travelers of an ancient lost civilization swallowed by the ocean. Many scholars suggest these Egyptian tales were the original source of Plato's writings, perhaps recounting memories of a historical catastrophe preserved through oral tradition and ancient texts. As centuries passed, the search for Atlantis intensified. Historians, archaeologists, and adventurers alike have combed the globe, exploring diverse locations from the Caribbean to Antarctica, from the islands of the Aegean Sea to the depths of the Atlantic Ocean itself. Each discovery, each submerged ruin, sparked fresh hope and debate. In the Atlantic Ocean near the Azores, mysterious underwater structures resembling roads and walls have been reported. Could these be the remnants of Atlantis? Or are they simply natural formations shaped by ocean currents and volcanic activity? Others point to the island of Santorini, Thera, where around 1600 BCE, a volcanic eruption destroyed the flourishing Minoan civilization. The eruption triggered massive tsunamis, devastating Crete and surrounding islands. Could this catastrophic event have inspired Plato's Atlantis? Or is Santorini merely one of many civilizations echoing the Atlantis myth? Meanwhile, researchers diving off the coast of southern Spain uncovered submerged structures near the Dendera National Park. Once an ancient harbor, now submerged beneath mud and water. Could this area, beyond the Pillars of Hercules, have been Atlantis, or at least its inspiration? Intriguingly, ancient maps, such as the enigmatic Piri Reis Map from the 16th century, depict islands and coastlines that modern explorers cannot easily explain. Some theorists propose these maps might contain echoes of lost lands, memories of Atlantis preserved through secret knowledge passed down across civilizations. Then there's the fascinating theory that Atlantis wasn't a physical place at all, but a symbolic tale warning humanity about the dangers of hubris, greed, and moral decay. Philosophers argue Plato intended Atlantis as a cautionary story, teaching lessons of humility and responsibility, rather than documenting a literal historical event. Despite centuries of investigation, Atlantis remains tantalizingly elusive. Yet the search continues, driven by insatiable human curiosity and our desire to discover truth hidden beneath layers of history, legend, and myth. Perhaps Atlantis is more than just a legend. Perhaps it symbolizes our enduring quest to understand our past, our potential, and ultimately, ourselves. Maybe, someday soon, Atlantis will rise, not from the ocean floor, but from forgotten stories waiting to be unearthed, challenging everything we know about our ancient past. Until then, the question remains: did Atlantis ever truly exist, or is it humanity's most captivating myth? Göbekli Tepe. What was its true purpose? Buried deep beneath the sands of southeastern Turkey, hidden quietly for nearly 12,000 years, lies a site so profound, so ancient, it challenges everything archaeologists thought they knew about human civilization. Its name is Göbekli Tepe, Turkish for Potbelly Hill, but this seemingly ordinary hill is anything but ordinary. It is the world's oldest known temple, predating even Stonehenge by over 6,000 years and the Great Pyramids of Egypt by a staggering 7,000 years. Yet, perhaps even more astonishing than its incredible age, Göbekli Tepe's true purpose remains shrouded in mystery. To understand Göbekli Tepe's enigmatic nature, we must travel back in time, far beyond the era of recorded history, to a period we once believed was primitive. Here, around 9,600 BCE, groups of ancient hunter-gatherers began creating something remarkable: massive T-shaped stone pillars, each weighing up to 20 tons and standing nearly 6 meters tall, adorned with intricate carvings of animals: lions, scorpions, vultures, snakes, and bulls. These stone monoliths, carefully arranged in circular formations, seem to suggest a ritual significance far beyond mere practicality. But why? Why would people, who were thought to spend most of their time simply hunting and foraging, suddenly invest enormous effort and energy in building such complex, symbolic structures? Archaeologists and historians were stunned when Göbekli Tepe was first uncovered in the mid-1990s by German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt. Schmidt described the site as humanity's first temple, theorizing that this groundbreaking discovery could rewrite our entire understanding of how civilization began. Yet, the mystery of Göbekli Tepe doesn't end there. One of its greatest puzzles is why it was intentionally buried. Around 8000 BCE, the site was meticulously covered with earth and stone, effectively sealed off, hidden from sight for millennia. Was this burial a deliberate act of preservation, protection, or perhaps fear? What might have caused these ancient people to conceal their greatest achievement from the world? One prominent theory is that Göbekli Tepe served as a sacred religious and ceremonial center, a gathering place for rituals, celebrations, or possibly even sacrifices. The animal carvings could represent symbolic guardians, celestial constellations, or spiritual deities guiding the earliest known religious practices. Some researchers speculate that Göbekli Tepe represents humanity's earliest organized religion, a powerful spiritual revolution that may have sparked the very first steps toward settled civilization. Another intriguing hypothesis suggests a more profound and cosmic purpose. Researchers like Graham Hancock argue that Göbekli Tepe's intricate carvings and precise alignments correspond to celestial patterns and significant astronomical events. Some scholars suggest the site's design might have served as an ancient observatory or astronomical calendar, carefully tracking celestial movements for reasons unknown. Could Göbekli Tepe be a monument commemorating a major cataclysmic event, such as a comet or meteor strike, which forever changed the ancient world? Indeed, geological records around the world show dramatic climate shifts around the time Göbekli Tepe was constructed. Might its builders have witnessed devastating events in the skies, events so terrifying and awe-inspiring they felt compelled to create a lasting monument in stone? Additionally, some theories propose that Göbekli Tepe might hold keys to understanding humanity's forgotten technological abilities. Could these ancient builders have possessed knowledge, skills, or tools that history has overlooked or lost entirely? How else could hunter-gatherers with simple tools have crafted, transported, and erected multi-ton stone pillars with remarkable precision? As excavations continue today, only about 10% of Göbekli Tepe has been uncovered, suggesting that even greater discoveries may yet lie hidden beneath the surface, patiently waiting to rewrite our history books once more. Ultimately, Göbekli Tepe's real purpose remains elusive, captivating researchers and explorers around the globe. Each newly unearthed artifact and stone pillar only deepens its intrigue, reminding us how little we truly know about our ancient ancestors. Perhaps Göbekli Tepe is a testament not only to human ingenuity but also to humanity's enduring drive toward spirituality, discovery, and community. Maybe its greatest lesson is a simple yet profound one. We must continually challenge our assumptions about who we are, where we come from, and what we are capable of. Until we uncover the complete truth beneath Göbekli Tepe's stones, its secrets will remain hidden, inviting us to continue asking questions, sparking our imaginations, and forever changing our understanding of human history. What exactly was Göbekli Tepe's true purpose, and what other ancient truths might it still reveal? Did aliens help build the Egyptian pyramids? The Egyptian pyramids, majestic, timeless, and towering silently over the sands of the Giza Plateau for more than 4,000 years. These iconic structures stand as symbols of human ambition and ingenuity, and yet they continue to spark an enduring question. How were such monumental achievements possible thousands of years ago, with limited technology and simple tools? Is it conceivable that ancient Egyptians built these marvels alone, or could they have had assistance from beings not of this earth? To truly understand this mystery, we must journey back to the ancient civilization that flourished along the Nile River. Ancient Egypt was an extraordinary culture, rich in spiritual belief, sophisticated knowledge, and deep reverence for the stars. Indeed, Egyptians were meticulous sky watchers, believing that the heavens were inhabited by gods whose wisdom could influence life and death itself. The largest and most famous pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Giza, built during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu around 2560 BCE, stands at 146 meters tall and is composed of over 2 million stone blocks, each weighing several tons. Even more astounding is the precision with which these stones were quarried, transported, and perfectly aligned to the cardinal points of the compass, matching astronomical positions with astonishing accuracy. But herein lies the mystery. How did ancient Egyptians, who reportedly had no knowledge of the wheel and no iron tools, move massive stones from distant quarries and assemble them into structures whose alignments still amaze modern scientists? Some of these granite blocks, transported from Aswan over 800 kilometers away, weigh up to 80 tons. Could ancient Egyptians alone have accomplished this monumental feat? For decades, researchers and scholars have debated various theories about how these awe-inspiring structures were built. Conventional archaeology asserts that human labor, complex ramp systems, and sheer ingenuity were sufficient. Yet, some suggest these explanations fall short when confronted with the precise engineering and astronomical sophistication of the pyramids. This controversy gave rise to another intriguing hypothesis, one that has fascinated millions worldwide: the ancient astronaut theory. Advocates of this theory argue that extraterrestrial beings visited Earth thousands of years ago, assisting humanity with advanced knowledge, technology, and engineering skills. They point to ancient Egyptian art and hieroglyphics showing what some interpret as images of flying crafts, mysterious lights in the sky, and even beings that look suspiciously like extraterrestrials. The proponents of the alien theory highlight the unique precision of the pyramid's alignments. The Great Pyramid, for example, aligns nearly perfectly to true north, off by less than 1/10 of a degree. Such precision would have required advanced knowledge of astronomy and geometry, knowledge allegedly beyond the reach of ancient Egyptian civilization alone. Further fueling this theory is the ancient Egyptian obsession with Orion's belt. The three pyramids at Giza are famously aligned with the three bright stars of Orion's belt constellation. Could this symbolic alignment point toward extraterrestrial origins, or was it merely a spiritual reverence for the stars and the afterlife? Additionally, the interior design of the Great Pyramid has baffled engineers for generations. Its narrow shafts and chambers seem precisely calculated for unknown purposes, perhaps astronomical observations or even energy harnessing. Some researchers speculate the pyramids might have functioned as massive energy generators, tapping into Earth's electromagnetic forces in ways modern science still struggles to explain. And what about the ancient texts found in the so-called pyramid texts, the earliest known Egyptian religious writings? These documents describe pharaohs ascending into the sky to join the gods, suggesting journeys through celestial gateways or star paths. Could these ancient texts hint at actual experiences with advanced technology, or even contact with otherworldly beings? Critics of the alien theory insist there is no direct physical evidence proving extraterrestrial intervention. Instead, they argue that attributing these extraordinary accomplishments to alien visitors underestimates ancient Egyptians, whose remarkable skills, knowledge, and dedication were clearly evident. After all, human history is filled with extraordinary examples of civilizations achieving seemingly impossible feats through determination, creativity, and sheer force of collective will. Yet, despite ongoing excavations, discoveries, and heated debates, no definitive explanation has fully satisfied both archaeologists and alternative theorists. The pyramids remain one of the greatest enigmas of human history, a mystery echoing through time, inviting continued exploration and speculation. Perhaps the pyramid's true purpose was simply spiritual, intended as gateways for pharaohs to ascend to the stars, or perhaps they hide secrets more extraordinary than we can imagine. Whether humanity built these colossal structures alone or with extraterrestrial aid, the pyramids will continue standing as eternal sentinels, guardians of mysteries that may one day rewrite our understanding of human history. Until that day, one profound question lingers. Did ancient Egyptians construct the pyramids by themselves, or did they receive help from beings from another world? The Dendera light and electricity in ancient Egypt. Deep beneath the sands of Egypt, within the silent shadows of an ancient temple, hides one of history's most astonishing enigmas, a mysterious carving known today as the Dendera light. This ancient relief, found in the Temple of Hathor in Dendera, challenges the conventional narrative about the technological capabilities of ancient civilizations. Could the ancient Egyptians have harnessed electricity thousands of years before it was officially discovered by modern science? To uncover this extraordinary possibility, we travel back more than 2,000 years to the reign of the Ptolemaic dynasty, a time when Egypt was already ancient, steeped in mysticism, sacred rituals, and complex symbolism. The Temple of Hathor was dedicated to the goddess Hathor, the deity of beauty, fertility, and cosmic energy. Yet hidden deep within this temple's crypt lies artwork far more intriguing than traditional religious depictions, something that looks eerily like modern electric light bulbs. The relief carvings depict enormous bulb-shaped objects supported by pillars, with serpent-like figures contained within the transparent structures. These serpentine shapes stretch along the length of the bulb, resembling the glowing filament of modern bulbs. At the base, we see what appear to be cables and electrical connectors, held aloft by figures who seem to be managing or operating these devices. The entire scene resembles a deliberate depiction of illumination, a technology believed impossible for that era. At first glance, skeptics argued these carvings merely represented mythological symbolism. Egyptian mythology frequently depicted serpents, often symbolizing energy, life force, or renewal. Traditional archaeologists suggest these carvings illustrate the myth of the Egyptian god Horus, portrayed as a serpent emerging from a lotus flower, symbolizing rebirth and renewal, a common theme in ancient Egyptian theology. Yet, the similarity between these carvings and modern electrical devices is uncanny, inspiring theories suggesting that perhaps the ancient Egyptians knew far more about electricity and technology than we previously imagined. Could this artwork have been intended to document actual devices used for illumination deep within temple chambers? Supporters of this controversial theory argue that the Dendera bulbs could explain how Egyptians were able to illuminate dark crypts and deep burial chambers without leaving soot or smoke residue typical of traditional oil lamps or torches. Interestingly, many ancient Egyptian temples and tombs, including famously intricate spaces like the Valley of the Kings, lack evidence of soot on their walls, suggesting the use of a cleaner light source. Could ancient Egyptians indeed have developed some form of primitive electric lighting? One of the strongest proponents of this theory, Austrian engineer Walter Garn, constructed a working model based on the Dendera reliefs in the late 20th century. Using materials and techniques theoretically available to ancient Egyptians, Garn successfully demonstrated that a primitive form of electrical illumination was feasible. Although his experiments faced skepticism from mainstream scholars, they sparked global interest, drawing attention to the fascinating possibility of lost ancient technologies. Further complicating this mystery, ancient texts from Egypt and surrounding civilizations speak cryptically of mysterious lights, glowing stones, and sources of illumination not easily explained by conventional knowledge. The famous Baghdad Battery, a small artifact dated to around 200 BCE, shows clear evidence that ancient peoples understood basic electrochemical reactions capable of producing low-voltage electricity. If Egyptians or other ancient cultures mastered similar techniques, could they have expanded this knowledge into functional lighting systems? Adding more intrigue, some fringe theorists suggest the Dendera lights might represent a technology gifted or taught by beings from elsewhere, echoing the ancient astronaut theory. They propose that extraterrestrial visitors introduced advanced technologies to ancient humans, including primitive electrical devices, which later vanished from human memory, leaving behind only puzzling clues hidden in stone. Critics of these theories maintain that interpreting ancient Egyptian carvings literally can mislead modern observers. They argue these images are symbolic, mythological, or metaphorical rather than literal technical blueprints. However, questions still persist. Why did Egyptians, so skilled in art and symbolism, choose imagery so vividly resembling electrical devices? Was it pure coincidence or a subtle hint at lost knowledge? Today, the Dendera light continues to fascinate researchers, historians, and curious minds worldwide. Visitors to the Temple of Hathor still gaze in awe and confusion at these strange reliefs, pondering whether the ancient Egyptians possessed technological secrets yet undiscovered, or if humanity has simply misinterpreted a spiritual symbolism crafted thousands of years ago. Ultimately, the Dendera relief remains a powerful reminder of how little we truly understand about our ancient ancestors, their capabilities, and the extent of their knowledge. It challenges our assumptions, pushes us to look deeper, and invites us to imagine what extraordinary truths still await discovery beneath the sands of Egypt and beyond. And so the question lingers. Did ancient Egyptians truly understand electricity thousands of years before modern science? Or does the Dendera light merely reflect mythology misunderstood by modern eyes? The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Did they really exist? Among the legendary seven wonders of the ancient world, none is more mysterious, more elusive, or more debated than the magnificent Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Envisioned as lush gardens cascading down monumental terraces, filled with vibrant flowers, exotic trees, and flowing streams, the gardens have captured imaginations for over 2 millennia. Yet, despite their legendary fame, one unsettling question remains unanswered. Did these gardens ever truly exist, or are they merely an ancient myth, a beautiful dream passed down through generations? To uncover this enduring mystery, we must first journey back to the ancient city of Babylon, located in present-day Iraq. Babylon was once the beating heart of Mesopotamia, a city of wealth, grandeur, and innovation. Under the powerful king Nebuchadnezzar II, who ruled around 600 BCE, Babylon became one of the largest, richest, and most admired cities in history, a metropolis described by ancient historians as a marvel of human achievement. According to tradition, King Nebuchadnezzar built the Hanging Gardens as a spectacular gift for his beloved queen, Amytis of Media, who yearned deeply for the lush, green landscapes of her homeland. Determined to ease her homesickness, Nebuchadnezzar commanded the construction of these magnificent gardens, a paradise rising high above the dry and dusty Mesopotamian plains. The gardens, according to ancient historians such as Strabo and Diodorus Siculus, consisted of massive stone terraces towering upwards, resembling a verdant mountain rising out of the earth itself. Exotic plants, flowers, shrubs, and enormous trees covered these terraces, creating a living tapestry of nature's beauty. Water flowed continuously, irrigating each level via an ingenious system of hidden pumps, screws, and canals. This sophisticated engineering allowed water drawn from the nearby Euphrates River to reach astonishing heights, nourishing gardens that seemed suspended magically in mid-air. But here lies the puzzling part of the tale. Despite these detailed descriptions by Greek and Roman historians, who wrote centuries after Nebuchadnezzar's reign, Babylonian records and inscriptions from the era make absolutely no mention of such gardens. Considering the Babylonians meticulously documented their great construction projects, such as city walls, temples, and palaces, the lack of direct evidence in their records is puzzling. Could the Hanging Gardens, famed across the ancient world, truly have been omitted from Babylonian records entirely? This absence of direct archaeological evidence has led to intense debate among historians and archaeologists. Some scholars propose that ancient historians might have mistakenly attributed the gardens to Babylon, perhaps confusing them with gardens located in another city entirely. Recent archaeological excavations near Nineveh, the ancient Assyrian capital hundreds of kilometers north of Babylon, revealed intricate irrigation systems and terraced gardens closely matching the descriptions of the legendary gardens. Could the Hanging Gardens have been mistakenly located in Babylon, while actually standing proudly in Nineveh? Supporters of this theory point to King Sennacherib of Assyria, who ruled nearly a century before Nebuchadnezzar. Assyrian records clearly document elaborate garden terraces built by Sennacherib, describing lush vegetation, exotic animals, complex aqueducts, and water-lifting devices, features strikingly similar to those described as belonging to the Hanging Gardens. If true, it could explain why Babylonian records fail to mention the gardens, since they may never have existed there at all. Others argue the Hanging Gardens could indeed have existed in Babylon, but were utterly destroyed and buried beneath the sands of history after centuries of warfare, conquest, and neglect. Babylon itself experienced repeated destruction and rebuilding, and many of its ancient structures were dismantled, lost, or reused by later civilizations. Perhaps, hidden beneath modern Iraqi soil, remnants of Nebuchadnezzar's great creation still await discovery. Additionally, some researchers propose that the Hanging Gardens may have existed only briefly, or on a smaller scale than legend claims. Perhaps a modest but beautiful palace garden was exaggerated over generations, growing into a legend of enormous proportions as ancient travelers passed down stories from one generation to another. Yet, even without definitive archaeological proof, the Hanging Gardens continue to captivate us. They embody humanity's eternal longing for beauty, harmony, and paradise, an aspiration to create earthly heavens despite harsh landscapes or daunting obstacles. The gardens represent the remarkable ingenuity, engineering sophistication, and artistic vision that ancient civilizations possessed. Today, the search continues. Archaeologists tirelessly explore potential sites, sift through historical documents, and piece together fragments of ancient pottery and stonework, hoping to find conclusive evidence. Until then, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon will remain one of history's most captivating and haunting enigmas, a monument that exists beautifully and mysteriously in our collective imagination. Perhaps, ultimately, their reality matters less than the truth they symbolize, the enduring human desire to craft something beautiful, something transcendent, something that defies even time itself. Until their existence is proven or disproven, the question will echo through history. Did the Hanging Gardens of Babylon ever truly exist, or do they remain history's most enchanting myth? Stonehenge, calendar, temple, or UFO landing site? On the vast plains of Salisbury in southern England, surrounded by rolling green hills and centuries of mist, stands one of the most iconic and mysterious monuments in human history, Stonehenge. A circle of colossal standing stones, some weighing more than 25 tons, arranged with stunning precision. Erected over 4,000 years ago, Stonehenge has captivated the minds of scholars, mystics, and travelers alike. But despite centuries of study, one fundamental question has never been fully answered. Why was it built? Is Stonehenge a calendar aligned with the cosmos? A sacred temple of forgotten rituals? Or could it, as some suggest, be evidence of something far more extraordinary, a contact point between humans and beings from beyond the stars? To begin uncovering this enigma, we must first consider the known facts. Stonehenge was not built all at once. Archaeological evidence reveals it was constructed in stages, beginning around 3000 BCE and continuing for over 1,500 years. Its earliest phase was a circular ditch with wooden posts, eventually replaced by the mighty sarsen stones and smaller bluestones, some of which were transported over 200 kilometers from the Preseli Hills in Wales, an incredible feat in an age without wheels, cranes, or modern roads. But how did these ancient builders manage to move such massive stones across treacherous terrain? And why go to such extraordinary lengths? The effort, the time, the coordination, it all points to a project of immense significance. Whatever Stonehenge was, it meant something powerful to the people who built it. Many researchers agree that Stonehenge served as an astronomical observatory. The site is aligned with the rising and setting of the sun on the summer and winter solstices. On the longest day of the year, the sun rises directly over the heel stone, casting a beam of light into the heart of the circle. This precise alignment suggests a sophisticated understanding of celestial patterns. Could Stonehenge have functioned as a kind of calendar, helping early people mark the seasons for agricultural or ritual purposes? Yet, Stonehenge may have been much more than just a tool for timekeeping. Numerous burials have been discovered in and around the site, many of them individuals who appear to have traveled great distances. Some scholars now believe Stonehenge may have been a sacred pilgrimage site, a place where the sick came seeking healing or the dying came to pass into the next world. A temple of life and death, where rituals were performed in tune with the rhythms of the sun, moon, and stars. But for many, Stonehenge's mysteries go far deeper. Ancient astronaut theorists have long pointed to its impossible construction, perfect alignments, and powerful energy fields as evidence of extraterrestrial involvement. They argue that the knowledge needed to design and build such a structure could not have existed in Neolithic Britain. Could it have been taught, or even executed, by beings from the stars? Some believe that Stonehenge, like other megalithic sites across the globe, forms part of a planetary grid, an invisible network of energy lines known as ley lines. These lines, they claim, were known to ancient civilizations and used to amplify energy or serve as navigational markers for flying crafts. Intriguingly, many of these sites, Stonehenge, the pyramids of Giza, Teotihuacan, align with each other in astonishing ways, even across continents. Coincidence, or a global blueprint guided by an unknown hand? The mystery deepens when we examine the acoustic properties of Stonehenge. Experiments suggest that the stones resonate with specific frequencies, creating a soundscape that may have been part of ceremonial or even consciousness-altering experiences. Was this a primitive sound temple, or something designed to communicate with forces beyond the earth? Skeptics argue that while Stonehenge is undeniably impressive, its purpose likely lies in more earthly concerns: seasonal festivals, burial rituals, tribal gatherings. They caution against reading too much into astronomical alignments, as many ancient sites happen to align with celestial events simply due to their orientation to the sky. But the mysteries remain. No written records, no inscriptions, no clear answers. Just silent stones whispering across millennia. Stonehenge is a riddle carved into the earth itself, an enduring symbol of humanity's longing to understand the cosmos, to connect with the divine, to reach beyond the limits of mortality. Whether it was a solar temple, a place of healing, a prehistoric observatory, or something far stranger, its presence continues to stir something deep within us. Because Stonehenge doesn't just ask one question, it asks all of them. Who built it? How did they do it? And what truth were they trying to leave behind? The Nazca Lines, messages to the gods, or maps for astronauts? High above the vast wind-swept deserts of southern Peru, ancient lines stretch across the earth in precise, deliberate formations, so large they can only be fully seen from the sky. Welcome to the Nazca Lines, one of the greatest unsolved puzzles of the ancient world. Hundreds of straight lines, geometric shapes, spirals, and massive depictions of animals, including monkeys, hummingbirds, spiders, whales, and even a humanoid figure with enormous eyes, etched into the earth more than 2,000 years ago. But the question remains: why were they created? And who, or what, were they made for? The Nazca Lines were first brought to the world's attention in the 1920s, when commercial airplanes began flying over Peru. From above, pilots were stunned to see strange, enormous shapes stretching for kilometers across the desert floor. Carved into the ground by removing the reddish rocks on top to reveal the lighter soil beneath, the lines had been nearly invisible from ground level for centuries, hidden in plain sight, waiting for human flight to reveal them. But that's where the mystery truly begins. Why would an ancient culture that never had flight technology create designs only visible from the sky? The lines were created by the Nazca people, a pre-Inca civilization that flourished between 500 BCE and 500 CE. They lacked metal tools, advanced mathematics, and any known form of aerial observation. Yet they constructed hundreds of massive, geometrically perfect lines and figures, some stretching more than 10 kilometers in length. The scale and precision of the work is staggering, especially considering they had no way to view the finished designs from above. Archaeologists have debated the purpose of the Nazca Lines for decades. One mainstream theory suggests that the lines were ritualistic pathways, meant to be walked during spiritual ceremonies, perhaps to invoke rain or fertility in the harsh desert climate. Others believe they were astronomical calendars, aligning with solstices, planetary movements, or star patterns, mapping the heavens in the dust of the earth. But the mystery deepens when we examine certain figures more closely. The monkey, with its coiled tail, appears almost stylized, as though drawn with an artistic flair more advanced than expected. The astronaut figure, an unusual human-like character with a large bulbous head and outstretched arm, has led some to propose that the lines were meant as messages to the gods, or even landing guides for ancient astronauts. Enter the ancient astronaut theory. popularized by authors like Erich von Däniken. This theory proposes that the Nazca Lines were created as landing strips or markers for extraterrestrial visitors. From this perspective, the geometric patterns could have guided spacecraft, while the giant figures might represent beings the Nazca people encountered or worshipped as gods. Could it be that the desert became a vast communication board for interstellar visitors? Supporters of this theory point out that several of the lines form perfectly straight runways, stretching for miles across hills, valleys, and natural obstacles. The sheer size and scale seem to defy explanation. Why such massive precision for something that can't be seen from the ground? On the other hand, many scientists reject these claims, citing the lack of physical evidence for alien contact and pointing to human ingenuity. They argue that the Nazca people could have used simple surveying tools, stakes, ropes, and geometry to design these figures with remarkable accuracy, even without the need to view them from above. They suggest the figures were created for deities in the sky, not beings from them. But one thing is certain: the Nazca Lines are meant to be seen from above. Whether for the gods, the stars, or something more advanced, their purpose remains elusive. Over 1,300 designs have been discovered so far, many still unexplored, many more perhaps lost to time. Satellite images and drone surveys continue to uncover new shapes hidden beneath the surface, suggesting that the desert may be guarding more secrets than we ever imagined. And with every new discovery, the same question arises. Were the Nazca people simply expressing their spiritual devotion through giant artworks, or were they part of something far greater, something cosmic? As the wind whispers across the Peruvian desert and the sun casts long shadows across ancient sand, the truth still sleeps beneath the surface. Who were the lines for? And more intriguingly, who was watching from above? The Mayan calendar and the 2012 prophecy. What were they really telling us? For centuries, the ancient Maya have fascinated historians with their breathtaking architecture, celestial knowledge, and haunting prophecies. But perhaps no aspect of Mayan civilization has stirred more speculation, more fear, and more confusion than their calendar, particularly its infamous end date, December 21, 2012. The world watched as that date approached. Books were written, documentaries aired, doomsday shelters sold out. Some feared the apocalypse. Others awaited a global awakening. But where did this idea come from? And more importantly, what were the Maya really trying to tell us? To answer that, we must first understand who the Maya truly were. The Maya civilization flourished across present-day Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras for more than 2,000 years. They were master astronomers, architects, mathematicians, and spiritual philosophers. Using naked-eye observation, they tracked the movements of the sun, moon, planets, and stars with shocking precision, calculating eclipses, solstices, and planetary alignments with accuracy that rivals modern science. At the heart of their cosmic wisdom lies the Mesoamerican long count calendar, a system unlike any other in the ancient world. It doesn't track years or seasons in the way we understand time, but rather follows immense cycles called backtons, each lasting approximately 394 years. According to Mayan inscriptions, the calendar began on a mythological date equivalent to August 11, 3114 BCE, marking the dawn of the current world age. The end of the 13th bacton, a full cycle of 5,125 years, fell on December 21, 2012. To the Maya, this was not the end of the world, but the end of an era, a cosmic reset, the closing of one chapter and the opening of another. Yet somehow, over centuries of misinterpretation, this profound spiritual concept was twisted into something else entirely, a doomsday prophecy. But did the Maya truly predict a global catastrophe? The answer, as always, is more complex and more fascinating. Mayan texts, such as those found on the Tortuguero Monument 6, reference the 13th bacton, but they don't speak of fire, death, or destruction. Instead, they describe the return of a deity, Balan Yacht, a mysterious god associated with change, transformation, and renewal. Scholars believe the prophecy was not one of destruction, but one of transition, a spiritual rebirth, a turning of the cosmic wheel. So why all the panic in 2012? In modern times, apocalyptic fears were amplified by sensational media and a public hungry for answers in a chaotic world. Ancient prophecies, New Age spirituality, planetary alignments, solar flares, and even the supposed return of the planet Nibiru were stitched together into a single narrative, the end of time. But in truth, the Maya never predicted the end of the world. They predicted a shift in human consciousness, a time of reckoning, a point of reflection and change. And perhaps they weren't wrong. Because while the earth didn't split open and the skies didn't fall, the years following 2012 have brought undeniable transformation. Technological revolutions, social upheavals, environmental crises, spiritual awakenings, something has shifted. Many now believe that the Mayan calendar was not counting down to a catastrophe, but instead marking a portal in time, a symbolic doorway into a new age of awareness. Let's not forget, the Maya were deeply attuned to the rhythms of the cosmos. They believed that time itself was alive, that events in the heavens were reflections of energies on Earth. Their calendar wasn't linear. It was cyclical. And each cycle brought opportunities for growth, for collapse, for evolution. Some researchers even propose that the Mayan calendar may have encoded long-forgotten cosmic knowledge, patterns of planetary conjunctions, solar changes, or even cycles of consciousness tied to galactic energy fields we're only beginning to understand. So, did the world end in 2012? No. But perhaps something else ended. An age of disconnection, blindness, or spiritual dormancy. And in its place, a new awareness slowly emerged, one still unfolding today. The Mayan calendar continues on, as does time itself. We are now living in the first backton of a new era, a new cycle of possibility. And as with every beginning, we are faced with a choice. What kind of world will we build this time? The Maya left us a message, not of doom, but of transformation. Not of death, but of rebirth. And maybe, just maybe, we're only beginning to understand what they truly meant. The Anunnaki, gods, visitors, or ancient rulers. Long before the pyramids rose in Egypt, before the stones of Stonehenge were set in place, and even before the first lines were etched into the Nazca Desert, there was Sumer, the world's first known civilization. Nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in what is now southern Iraq, ancient Sumer gave birth to writing, law, astronomy, mathematics, and something else, the Anunnaki. These mysterious beings, often referred to as the gods who came from the heavens, are at the center of one of the most provocative theories in ancient history. Who were they? Divine deities? Mythical rulers? Or visitors from another world? Let's go back over 6,000 years. The Sumerians left behind thousands of clay tablets, etched in cuneiform script, the earliest written language known to man. These tablets describe the Anunnaki not as vague spiritual entities, but as living, breathing figures, with names, personalities, responsibilities, and extraordinary power. According to these ancient texts, the Anunnaki descended from the sky, settled on Earth, and played a direct role in shaping human civilization. The term Anunnaki itself translates roughly to those who came from the heavens to Earth. Now here's where things get interesting. Some of the most controversial interpretations, made famous by authors like Zecharia Sitchin, suggest that the Anunnaki weren't just mythological gods, but extraterrestrial beings who came to Earth from a distant planet called Nibiru. According to Sitchin's readings of the ancient texts, the Anunnaki arrived on Earth in search of gold, not for wealth, but to use as a solution for their planet's failing atmosphere. The story goes deeper. To mine this gold, the Anunnaki allegedly created a hybrid species by genetically modifying early humans, mixing their own DNA with that of Homo erectus. The result? Homo sapiens. Could it be that humanity itself was engineered, designed, not evolved, for a specific purpose? Ancient tablets like the Epic of Creation, Enuma Elish, and the Epic of Gilgamesh contain echoes of these ideas. They speak of gods shaping mankind from clay, of a great flood sent to wipe out corrupted creations, of divine rulers descending from above to establish kingship on earth. These themes sound eerily familiar, not only in Sumerian myths but in later religious texts from around the world. From the Book of Genesis to the tales of the Nephilim, from Hindu epics to Mesoamerican legends, the motif is the same: sky beings interacting with humanity, guiding them, ruling them, or manipulating them. And the Anunnaki weren't alone. The Sumerians described a full pantheon, with Enlil, Enki, Inanna, Ninhursag, and others playing crucial roles. Some were benevolent teachers, others were warlike and jealous. Their interactions with humanity were complex, personal, and disturbingly familiar. But let's pause. Mainstream scholars argue that these stories are symbolic allegories to explain the mysteries of life, nature, and creation. They caution against reading mythology as literal truth. After all, just because a text speaks of beings from the sky doesn't mean they were aliens. Maybe heavens simply referred to the divine realm, the unknown. And yet, the detail is what haunts us. Why would the Sumerians, without telescopes, satellites, or spacecraft, describe planets that weren't officially discovered until modern times? Why did they know so much about astronomy, planetary motion, and mathematics? And why did they insist that their knowledge came from the gods? Some researchers believe the Anunnaki left behind more than just stories. They left architecture, mathematics, astrological systems, and possibly even ancient technology, now lost to time. Could sites like Göbekli Tepe, the pyramids, or even underground cities like Derinkuyu be remnants of a world shaped by these mysterious beings? Today, the theory of the Anunnaki divides opinion. It exists on the razor's edge between history, mythology, and speculative science fiction. And yet, it refuses to disappear. Because deep down, we keep asking the same question. What if we're not alone? And what if we never were? Are the Anunnaki just mythological echoes of our ancestors' spiritual imagination? Or are they part of a far older, more extraordinary truth, one that could completely rewrite the story of human origin? Whatever the answer is, one thing is clear. The Sumerians were trying to tell us something. And maybe, just maybe, we're finally ready to listen. Vimana, the flying machines of ancient India. In the vast, sacred texts of ancient India, woven into the pages of the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, and the Vedas, there lies a mystery so strange, so futuristic, it defies belief. These ancient writings describe machines that fly. Not metaphorically, not poetically, literally. Known as Vimana, these flying crafts were said to soar through the skies, hover motionless in midair, and even travel between planets. But wait, this is ancient India. We're talking about texts written over 3,000 years ago. How could people from the Bronze Age possibly conceive of such advanced technology? Let's look closer. The Sanskrit word Vimana literally translates to measuring out or having been measured, but in the epics it clearly refers to aerial vehicles. These weren't just poetic metaphors for clouds or divine imagination. They were described in technical detail. Their shapes, the materials used to construct them, their propulsion methods, even their battle capabilities. In the Ramayana, the flying chariot of King Ravana, called the Pushpaka Vimana, is described as a craft that could travel at incredible speeds, change directions instantly, and expand or shrink in size. It was said to be adorned with golden decorations, propelled without wings or wheels, and capable of carrying multiple passengers through the skies. In the Mahabharata, epic battles are fought between warriors using advanced flying machines. They launch energy weapons, cause massive explosions, and maneuver through the air with agility far beyond any known technology of the time. These descriptions are so vivid that they sound less like mythology and more like the pages of a science fiction novel or a modern fighter pilot's log. But how could such knowledge exist in the distant past? Some researchers believe that the ancient Indian sages may have had access to advanced aeronautical knowledge, either from a long-lost human civilization or from extraterrestrial visitors. Ancient astronaut theorists suggest that the Vimana described in these texts are evidence of real flying machines, either remnants of an advanced human past destroyed by cataclysm or technologies gifted to early civilizations by non-human intelligence. Supporting this idea are the Samarangana Sutradhara and the Vaimanika Shastra, ancient Sanskrit texts believed to contain instructions on building flying machines. The Vaimanika Shastra, though controversial, details propulsion systems using mercury, energy vortices, and advanced materials. Skeptics argue that this text was written much later, possibly as a forgery in the early 20th century, but others maintain that it reflects older, hidden knowledge passed down from generation to generation. And there's more. The Ajunta and Ellora caves, carved directly into solid rock, feature sculptures and carvings that some claim depict Vimana-like shapes, rounded, disc-like forms, and pointed, aerodynamic designs. Could these be artistic representations of vehicles the ancients once saw or were told about? Across other ancient cultures, we find parallel legends. Flying shields in Celtic myths, fiery chariots in the Bible, sky boats of the Dogon people in Africa. Is this a coincidence, or do these stories reflect a shared memory of a time when the skies were not silent? Mainstream historians argue that these are mythical visions, products of imagination or spiritual symbolism. To them, the Vimana represent the divine, not machines. But for many truth-seekers, the question lingers. Why are these flying machines described with such mechanical precision? Why do ancient texts mention materials like mercury, gyroscopes, and propulsion long before such ideas were scientifically known? Could the ancients have witnessed flying objects, perhaps even traveled in them? Or did they inherit the memories of a vanished civilization, one far more advanced than we believe existed at the time? Whether the Vimana were real or metaphorical, they have left a lasting imprint on humanity's imagination, an echo of something once seen in the skies and never forgotten. So we ask, were the Vimana just poetic myths of ancient India? Or are they fragments of a forgotten aerospace history buried in sacred scripture? One thing is clear. When we look to the skies of our past, we may just find the blueprints of our future. The Piri Reis Map, ancient knowledge of Antarctica? In the year 1513, a Turkish admiral named Piri Reis unveiled a world map unlike any other. Drawn on gazelle skin parchment, the map detailed the coasts of South America, West Africa, and, most astonishing of all, a landmass many believe to be Antarctica. But here's the twist. The map showed Antarctica's coastline, without ice. That detail alone has shaken the foundations of mainstream history. Because according to everything we've been taught, Antarctica has been covered in ice for at least 6,000 years. It wasn't even officially discovered until 1820, 3 centuries after Piri Reis drew his map. So how could a 16th-century admiral chart a landmass he was never supposed to know existed? Let's unravel the mystery. Piri Reis was a brilliant navigator and cartographer in the Ottoman Empire. In his notes, he claimed that his map was not entirely his own creation. Instead, it was compiled from dozens of ancient sources, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great, others perhaps even older. These source maps, according to Piri Reis, were created using materials from civilizations long lost to history. And that's where things get even stranger. In 1960, a cartographer and U.S. Air Force captain named Arlington H. Mallory studied the map and compared it to seismic data gathered in Antarctica. He concluded that the map accurately represented the subglacial coastline of Queen Maud Land, a portion of Antarctica hidden beneath miles of ice. The only way to chart that coastline would be via aerial observation or advanced technology, something supposedly non-existent in 1513 or thousands of years earlier. This shocking detail sparked a firestorm of theories. Some researchers believe the Piri Reis Map is evidence of a lost civilization, one with seafaring, mapping, and possibly even flight capabilities. Could this be the echo of Atlantis? Or perhaps a forgotten global society that predated even the Egyptians and Sumerians? Others push the boundaries further, suggesting extraterrestrial involvement. If Earth was visited by advanced beings in antiquity, could they have mapped the planet and left behind knowledge, passed down, recopied, and preserved through ancient scrolls and stone libraries now lost? Adding fuel to the fire, the map not only displays correct proportions for South America, but also shows features like rivers and mountain ranges in locations that were only confirmed centuries later. Some parts of the map seem to show the Earth as if viewed from above, aerial perspective, something no known culture in 1513 should have possessed. But the mystery doesn't stop with Piri Reis. Other ancient maps, like the Orontius Phineas map, 1531, and the Bwatch map, 1737, also depict Antarctica without ice. Were these mapmakers also working from ancient source materials? If so, where did these original maps come from, and who made them? Mainstream historians urge caution. They argue that the identification of Antarctica is speculative, that early mapmakers sometimes filled in blanks with guesses or myths. The Antarctica we see on the Piri Reis map, they say, might simply be a misinterpretation of South America's extended coastlines. Maybe it's not a revelation, just a coincidence. But is it? If it were just one map, maybe. But when multiple ancient charts begin to align with modern satellite data, and all trace their origins back to unknown earlier sources, something deeper is at play. The Piri Reis map is more than an old piece of parchment. It's a crack in the narrative, a glitch in the timeline of what we thought we knew. It whispers of ancient knowledge, of lost archives, of truths buried not in the sand, but in silence. So we must ask, did Piri Reis unknowingly preserve the remnants of a prehistoric global knowledge system? Or did his pen trace lines pass down from civilizations whose stories have been erased by time? One map, one mystery, and perhaps a message from the past. You've forgotten. But we were here. The lost Roman Ninth Legion. Disappearance or cover-up? They were Rome's finest. Hardened veterans, battle-tested warriors, an elite fighting force known as the Ninth Legion or Legio IX Hispana. 4 decades, they defended the empire's farthest frontiers, marched into hostile lands, and upheld the might of Rome. And then they vanished, without a trace. No battlefield, no recorded defeat, no returning survivors. Just silence. What happened to Rome's lost legion? Let's travel back to the 2nd century CE, to the cold, wind-swept wilderness of northern Britannia, modern-day Scotland. At the time, Britannia was a volatile province, plagued by fierce resistance from the native tribes, particularly the warlike Picts. To the Roman Empire, the region was wild, untamed, and dangerously unpredictable. Historical records suggest that the Ninth Legion, after decades of active duty across Gaul, Hispania, and Germania, was stationed in Britain to help suppress uprisings. But sometime after 117 CE, they disappear from official Roman military records. No mention of their disbandment. No detailed account of their defeat. Just a missing legion. This sudden disappearance gave rise to one of the most enduring mysteries of the ancient world. Theory 1. Annihilation in the north. Many historians believe the Ninth Legion was wiped out in a catastrophic ambush by northern tribes. It's said they marched north from York to confront rebellious forces, and were never seen again. No survivors. No reinforcements. Just silence from the mists beyond Hadrian's Wall. Archaeological evidence supports the presence of the Ninth in York, where inscriptions, tiles, and stamps bearing their name have been found. But beyond that, nothing. As if they marched into the fog and became ghosts of history. Could thousands of trained soldiers really be entirely destroyed, leaving no record? Could Rome have simply buried the truth, silencing the loss to preserve the illusion of imperial invincibility? Theory 2. Reassigned and forgotten. Other scholars argue a different fate, that the Ninth wasn't destroyed, but reassigned quietly, perhaps to the eastern provinces like Judea or Armenia, where conflict also raged. Their records might have been lost, their name absorbed into new legions, or simply dropped from the annals due to bureaucratic error or political motives. But if so, why no trace? No inscriptions, no monuments, no medals, no pensions paid to veterans? It's as if they were erased. Deliberately. Theory 3. Cover-up by Rome. The idea of a Roman cover-up is particularly compelling. Rome was obsessed with its image. Legions didn't just fight battles. They were symbols of Roman order, discipline, and divine authority. If an entire legion had been massacred by so-called barbarian tribes, it would have been a public relations disaster. Could Emperor Hadrian, who ordered the construction of Hadrian's Wall shortly after the Ninth's disappearance, have used the wall to conceal a shameful defeat? A permanent boundary not just against the Picts, but against the memory of a failure? Theory 4. The legend of the Cursed Legion. In later centuries, stories of the Ninth took on a darker, almost mythical tone. Some legends speak of a cursed legion, swallowed by the misty highlands, condemned to roam forever. Others say they were betrayed from within, that internal revolt or mutiny led to their demise, and the empire chose to erase them rather than admit weakness. Even today, in the remote glens of Scotland, whispers remain, of Roman shields found in peat bogs, of ghostly formations seen in the fog, marching still. Their fate inspired novels, films, even conspiracy theories. Yet through all the speculation, one question echoes louder than any horn of war. How does an entire Roman legion vanish, and leave behind only a mystery? Whatever happened to the Ninth Legion, whether they were annihilated, reassigned, or purposefully forgotten, their story haunts the edges of Roman history like a shadow just beyond the torchlight. And so we ask, was the disappearance of the Ninth Legion a military disaster buried by propaganda, or one of history's greatest unsolved disappearances? Perhaps someday, deep in a bog or buried in a forgotten cave, their story will be found. Until then, the Ninth marches on, in legend. The Great Sphinx. Are there secret chambers beneath its paws? In the blistering heat of the Egyptian desert, it sits silently. Ancient. Stoic. Watchful. The Great Sphinx of Giza, a massive, enigmatic statue carved from a single block of limestone, stretching over 70 meters long and standing nearly 20 meters high. For thousands of years, it has guarded the Giza Plateau like a sentinel of forgotten time. But many believe, the real mystery isn't what lies before us. It's what lies beneath. Is there a hidden chamber under the Sphinx? It's a question that has puzzled archaeologists, mystics, and truth-seekers for centuries. A question that may lead not just to Egypt's past, but to a truth so ancient, so profound, it could change everything we know about human history. Let's begin with what we know. The Sphinx is believed by mainstream Egyptologists to have been built around 2500 BCE, during the reign of Pharaoh Khafre. Its lion body and human head, possibly a portrait of the pharaoh himself, symbolize power and divine wisdom. But here's where things start to shift. Some researchers, especially those outside of traditional academia, argue that the erosion patterns on the Sphinx's body suggest it is far older than Egyptologists admit. The deep vertical weathering, resembling damage from heavy, consistent rainfall, doesn't match the arid climate of Giza for the past 5,000 years. Instead, geologists like Dr. Robert Schoch propose that the Sphinx could date back to 7,000 or even 10,000 BCE, a time when Egypt was lush, green, and tropical. If that's true, it doesn't just rewrite the timeline of Egypt, it completely shatters our understanding of ancient civilization. Because if the Sphinx was carved that long ago, it means a highly advanced culture existed in deep prehistory, one capable of creating colossal monuments. But we're just getting started. The Hall of Records. Enter one of the most persistent legends in esoteric history. A hidden chamber, buried beneath the Sphinx's paws. A Hall of Records said to contain ancient knowledge from a lost civilization, perhaps even Atlantis itself. The idea was made famous by the American mystic Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet. In a trance, Cayce claimed that survivors of Atlantis fled to Egypt and hid their wisdom beneath the Sphinx, a vault that would one day be discovered, revealing the truth about humanity's forgotten origins. Sound like science fiction? In the 1990s, radar and seismic studies conducted by Egyptian authorities and international researchers, including a team from Stanford Research Institute, did detect anomalies beneath the Sphinx. Rectangular voids, hollow areas, possible chambers. But access was denied. Excavation was restricted. The findings were quietly shelved. Why? Some believe the Egyptian government and global institutions fear what might be discovered, truths that could challenge not just archaeology, but religion, history, and the very foundation of civilization itself. Others suggest the chamber was already explored, and its contents removed or concealed. And then, there are those who say nothing lies beneath at all. That the legends are pure fantasy, and that the Sphinx, while majestic, is simply a relic of Old Kingdom artistry. But still, the questions remain. The mystery endures. Why are there no inscriptions on the Sphinx explaining its purpose or origin? Why does it face directly east, aligned perfectly with the rising sun on the spring equinox? Why do ancient texts, like those from the Temple of Edfu, speak of the first time, a mythical era before pharaohs, when gods walked the earth? Could the Sphinx be a monument from that forgotten time? A warning? A gateway? A key? We may never know, unless we're allowed to look deeper, to dig, to open what lies below. Because if there really is a Hall of Records, if something still rests beneath the Sphinx, it wouldn't just change Egypt's history. It would change humanity's story. The Oracle of Delphi. Did she truly see the future? In the ancient world, few places held more mystery, reverence, and fear than Delphi. Nestled on the slopes of Mount Parnassus, overlooking the sacred valley of Phocis, Delphi was believed to be the center of the world, the omphalos, or navel of the earth. And there, in the heart of the sanctuary, within the temple of Apollo, sat a woman, shrouded in incense and secrecy, whispering words that could change the fate of empires. She was the Pythia, the legendary Oracle of Delphi. But was she truly gifted with second sight? Could she really see the future, or was something else at work? Let's unravel the myth and the reality. For over 1,000 years, the Oracle of Delphi was consulted by the most powerful figures in the ancient world: kings, warriors, philosophers. Alexander the Great, Socrates, Croesus of Lydia, even Roman emperors. They came not for speeches or sermons, but for cryptic, fragmented sentences, spoken in trance, believed to come directly from the god Apollo. The Pythia, always a woman, was chosen from among the local population. She would bathe in sacred waters, chew bay leaves, and sit upon a tripod deep within the temple. There, in a dark chamber known as the Adyton, she would enter a trance-like state and prophesy. But what caused this trance? For centuries, historians debated whether it was performance, myth, or madness. Then, in the 1990s, a breakthrough. Geologists studying the site of Delphi discovered that two fault lines run directly beneath the temple. And where they intersect, they release natural gases, including ethylene, a sweet-smelling hydrocarbon known to induce euphoria, hallucinations, and altered states of consciousness. Suddenly, the ancient descriptions made sense. The Pythia was not faking. It's very possible she was literally high, breathing in psychoactive gases rising from the earth itself. And in that altered state, her mind may have accessed something deeper, something beyond the veil. But here's the twist. Even in her altered state, her prophecies were uncannily accurate. Take the story of King Croesus of Lydia. Before attacking the Persians, he consulted Delphi. The oracle told him, "If you cross the river, a great empire will fall." He took it as a green light for war. He crossed the river, and his own empire fell. Or consider the case of Themistocles, who was told, "Only the wooden walls shall stand." He interpreted it as ships, and used the Greek navy to outmaneuver the mighty Persian fleet at the Battle of Salamis, changing the course of history. These weren't vague horoscope readings. They were precise, timely, and eerily fitting. So we must ask, was the oracle merely interpreting gas-induced visions? Or was she somehow tuning into something far more profound? Some theorists suggest the Pythia was acting as a kind of human antenna, an organic receiver for ancient knowledge, cosmic frequencies, or even interdimensional insight. Could it be that beneath the rituals and the incense, Delphi was a portal to a higher realm of information? A kind of ancient data stream, only accessible through altered states? Others propose that Delphi sat on a powerful Earth energy node, a place of geomagnetic flux that could amplify psychic abilities or spiritual perception. A thin place, where the barrier between worlds was just a little more fragile. And what of the priests? The Pythia never spoke alone. Her words were interpreted by the temple priests, highly educated men who often shaped the final messages. Were they simply translating, or subtly manipulating prophecy for political ends? One thing is certain. Delphi wasn't just a spiritual center. It was a power structure, a political hub, and a source of tremendous influence. For over a millennium, the oracle held the attention and fear of the entire ancient world. And then, she fell silent. With the rise of Christianity, pagan temples were closed. The oracle was silenced. The earth's voice, once spoken through the breath of Apollo, was muted. But the legend remains. And beneath the ruins of the Temple of Apollo, perhaps those gases still rise, waiting for someone to breathe in a new revelation. So we ask, was the Oracle of Delphi a divine messenger, or an ancient channeler of natural and cosmic forces? And more hauntingly, can the future still be heard in the winds of Mount Parnassus? The curse of Pharaoh Ramses, myth, coincidence, or ancient warning? In the shadowed halls of Egypt's ancient tombs, where golden treasures gleam beneath layers of sand and silence, one whisper has survived the centuries. A warning etched not in stone, but in fear. Whosoever disturbs the sleep of the Pharaoh shall suffer the wrath of the gods. We've all heard of the curse of the pharaohs, the chilling tales of archaeologists falling ill, expeditions ending in disaster, and mysterious deaths following the opening of ancient tombs. But while Tutankhamun's curse is the most famous, few know that one of the most terrifying legends surrounds the mighty Ramses the Great, a ruler whose power in life and in death was said to reach beyond the grave. So, who was Ramses? Ramses II, also known as Ramses the Great, ruled Egypt for an astonishing 66 years, from 1279 to 1213 BCE. He led military campaigns, built colossal temples, and fathered more than 100 children. He was considered a living god, and when he died, he was entombed with full divine honors, his resting place shrouded in mystery, magic, and protection. But legend has it, disturbing Ramses' tomb would bring about divine punishment, a curse that no man, no matter how modern, could escape. Fast forward to the 1800s. European explorers, fueled by fascination and greed, began unearthing Egypt's buried past. In 1881, Ramses' mummy was discovered in the Deir el-Bahari cache, along with dozens of other royal mummies. Almost immediately, strange things began to happen. Members of the expedition fell ill. Some died of sudden infections. A few vanished under unexplained circumstances. And many believed the curse had awoken. Later, when Ramses' body was sent to France in 1976 for restoration, it was granted a full passport, listing his occupation as King Deceased. This was more than ceremonial. It was out of fear. As the plane prepared for takeoff, electrical malfunctions delayed the flight for hours. Several on board would later report odd sensations, headaches, even hallucinations. Coincidence? Or something darker? Let's go deeper. Ancient Egyptian tombs weren't just burial sites. They were spiritual fortresses. Walls covered in sacred texts, incantations, curses, protective spells designed to ward off thieves, invaders, and the curious. Some spells speak directly to intruders. I will seize his neck like a bird. I will cast fear into him, so that he shall not approach this tomb. Could it be that the ancient Egyptians, masters of spirituality and the metaphysical, knew how to encode energy into words, objects, or symbols? Could they have created psychic triggers, spiritual traps that activated across time? Modern scientists, of course, are skeptical. They point to more rational explanations: exposure to mold and bacteria sealed in tombs, dangerous gases released after millennia underground, psychological suggestion, a kind of mass hysteria fueled by expectation. But others believe there's more to it. Some researchers suggest the curses may have been connected to vibrational energy, resonance, or even lost knowledge of ancient physics. What if certain rituals or inscriptions affected human consciousness in ways we no longer understand? And then there are those who go further, proposing that the pharaohs, seen as gods on earth, may have possessed spiritual energy so strong it lingered after death. Their tombs weren't just places of rest, they were anchors to something eternal. And Ramses wasn't just any pharaoh. He was the embodiment of divine kingship. If any ruler had the power to reach through time, it would be him. So, we ask, were the deaths and misfortunes surrounding Ramses mere accidents? Or was his tomb, like his soul, still fiercely guarded by forces we dare not understand? Whether superstition or sacred science, the curse of Ramses reminds us of a truth often forgotten in the modern world. Some doors were never meant to be opened. The Fall of Pompeii, natural disaster, or divine punishment? It was a sunny morning on August 24, 79 CE. The markets of Pompeii were busy. Children laughed in the streets. Merchants bartered. Life unfolded beneath the towering shadow of Mount Vesuvius, which had been silent for centuries. Then, the sky turned black. What followed was one of the most terrifying and perfectly preserved catastrophes in human history. Mount Vesuvius erupted with unimaginable fury. A deafening roar cracked the sky. Ash and pumice rained from above, burying Pompeii under 6 meters of volcanic debris. Within 24 hours, the once thriving Roman city had vanished from the earth. But what if the fall of Pompeii was more than a geological disaster? What if it was seen, by those who witnessed it, as something else entirely. A punishment, a curse, a divine reckoning. The warnings. Before the eruption, strange things were reported. Unusual animal behavior. A powerful earthquake days earlier. A sudden drying of wells. Even a mysterious column of smoke seen rising from the mountain. The Roman author Pliny the Younger, who witnessed the event from across the Bay of Naples, described the eruption in harrowing detail. He likened the ash cloud to a pine tree, reaching into the sky and blotting out the sun. People fled, choking on toxic air, some clutching religious idols, others frozen in prayer. Some survivors claimed to have seen flashes in the sky, strange lights, and even what we'd now call fireballs, hurtling toward the earth. Were they exaggerations of a terrified population, or genuine records of something unexplainable? The city's destruction was so sudden, so complete, it left corpses mid-motion, people running, protecting loved ones, shielding their faces. Food still sat on tables. Dogs remained chained to doorways. Time didn't pass, it stopped. It felt intentional. The reputation of Pompeii. Pompeii wasn't just any Roman city. It had a reputation. Known for its decadence, gambling, prostitution, and unorthodox religious rites, many in the empire saw it as a place of moral decay. When news of its destruction spread, some whispered that the gods had spoken, that Vesuvius had erupted in anger, cleansing sin from the land. Even early Christian writers, like Tertullian, saw Pompeii's fall as divine justice, a punishment for idolatry and excess. Could it be that the city's fate was sealed not by lava, but by cosmic judgment? The symbols in ash. What makes Pompeii truly unique is its preservation. It's not just ruins, it's a snapshot of a moment frozen in volcanic ash. And within those ruins lie symbols, patterns, and messages. Strange murals depicting serpent gods, ritual dances, and mythical beasts. Mosaics of underworld deities like Hades and Persephone. Frescoes that show portals, watching eyes, and rituals that scholars still struggle to interpret. Was Pompeii more than a city of pleasure? Was it also a spiritual nexus, a place of arcane rites and forbidden knowledge? Some believe that what happened wasn't just a volcano, but a dimensional shift. That something occurred beneath the surface, perhaps a ritual gone wrong, or a disturbance of something meant to remain hidden. Extreme? Maybe. But consider this. Pompeii disappeared, and no one came back. No rebuilding. No repopulating. As if something had sealed it, deliberately, permanently. The legacy. Today, as we walk through the streets of Pompeii, we don't just see walls and ruins. We see faces. Real people. Their final expressions captured in ash and agony. And the message they leave us may not be geological. It may be spiritual. When arrogance replaces humility. When pleasure becomes obsession. When we forget the earth speaks. The gods, or the earth, or something greater, remembers. So we ask, was Pompeii destroyed by nature's fury? Or did something more ancient, more powerful, pass judgment that day? Only the ashes know for sure. The Library of Alexandria. What knowledge was lost forever? The Library of Alexandria is remembered as one of the greatest intellectual achievements of the ancient world, and its destruction, one of history's greatest tragedies. Established in the Egyptian city of Alexandria during the 3rd century BCE, it was part of a larger research institution known as the Mauseion, which functioned as both a university and a sanctuary of knowledge. Founded under the rule of the Ptolemaic dynasty, the library's mission was ambitious: to collect every book, scroll, and manuscript in existence, regardless of origin or language. It is estimated that the library may have housed between 400,000 and 700,000 scrolls, covering subjects like astronomy, mathematics, medicine, philosophy, literature, history, and technology. What made the Library of Alexandria unique wasn't just its size, but its global scope. Works were acquired through trade, travel, copying foreign texts, and even by confiscating books from ships that docked in Alexandria's port. The texts were copied, studied, translated, and archived. Scholars from Greece, Egypt, India, Babylon, and elsewhere worked and lived there, creating a hub of multicultural academic exchange unlike anything else in the ancient world. The destruction of the library did not occur in a single event, but likely happened in multiple stages over several centuries. Key historical moments include Julius Caesar's siege of Alexandria, 48 BCE, during which parts of the city and possibly the library were burned. Attacks by early Christian zealots, 3rd to 4th centuries CE, who viewed many of the texts as pagan or heretical. The Muslim conquest of Alexandria, 7th century CE, after which any surviving scrolls may have been destroyed or repurposed. While it's unclear how much was lost at each stage, the cumulative effect was devastating. Almost none of the original scrolls survived. Entire bodies of knowledge, works by philosophers, scientists, historians, and engineers, were lost to time. We don't know exactly what was in the Library of Alexandria, but based on historical references and fragments cited by later authors, it's likely that we lost works from ancient civilizations like Mesopotamia, Persia, and India that had never been translated elsewhere. Scientific theories and inventions far ahead of their time, possibly including advanced mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. Histories of ancient peoples and lost empires, which might have helped us better understand global civilization. Religious and philosophical texts that could have shifted the development of modern worldviews. Some historians speculate that humanity's scientific progress may have been set back by centuries due to the library's destruction. Today, the Library of Alexandria lives on not only as a symbol of lost knowledge, but also as a warning, a reminder of how fragile human achievement can be in the face of war, ideology, and neglect. It represents the idea that knowledge, once lost, is not easily recovered. What might our world look like today if that knowledge had survived? Unknown star maps of the ancient world. Throughout history, civilizations around the world have looked to the stars, not only for storytelling and mythology, but also for navigation, agriculture, architecture, and in some cases, something deeper. What makes this particularly fascinating is that many ancient cultures, separated by geography and time, left behind star maps and sky charts that contain details modern astronomers did not fully understand until the invention of the telescope. These maps raise questions about how such knowledge was obtained, and whether ancient people were far more advanced in observational astronomy than traditionally believed. In Mesopotamia, clay tablets dating back over 4,000 years contain records of celestial events with astonishing accuracy. The Sumerians tracked planetary motion and even had knowledge of a 12-planet system, which some theorists argue includes planets still undiscovered or hypothetical. The famous Babylonian Mul-Apin tablets documented the heliacal rising of stars and marked constellations with remarkable precision, some of which are still used today. Ancient Egyptians aligned their temples and pyramids with celestial bodies, particularly Orion and Sirius. The pyramid texts and star sealings found in tombs like that of Senenmut show detailed depictions of constellations and star movements. These were not just decorative elements. They were embedded in religious and architectural design, showing a clear connection between the cosmos and the sacred. One of the most perplexing examples is the Antikythera mechanism, discovered off the coast of Greece in a shipwreck and dated to around 100 BCE. Though not a star map in the traditional sense, this mechanical device predicted lunar cycles, eclipses, and planetary movements with such precision that it has been dubbed the world's first analog computer. Its complexity challenges assumptions about the level of Greek astronomical understanding at the time. In Mesoamerica, the Maya developed one of the most advanced calendar systems ever seen in the ancient world. Their star charts and cosmic alignments, visible in cities like Chichen Itza, reflected deep knowledge of Venus cycles, solar equinoxes, and lunar phases. Their alignment of temples to celestial events was not random, but built into the design of their civilization. Some Aboriginal Australian groups mapped constellations not only in the stars, but in the dark spaces between stars, like the emu in the sky. These star maps were used for navigation, seasonal migration, and storytelling, passed down orally through thousands of years with uncanny consistency. The biggest mystery isn't just that these cultures mapped the stars, it's how accurately they did it, often without telescopes or modern instruments. Some star charts seem to suggest knowledge of precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis, and stellar alignments from thousands of years before they were officially discovered. There are even depictions in some ancient Indian and Tibetan texts that suggest cyclical cosmic time spanning tens of thousands of years, hinting at an astronomical perspective beyond what we typically associate with ancient civilizations. While most of academia views these star maps as the result of generations of careful observation, others suggest alternative theories. Could there have been forgotten knowledge handed down from a lost civilization? Could ancient cultures have inherited astronomical data from unknown sources, be they remnants of a forgotten golden age or something more speculative? Regardless of the origin, ancient star maps continue to challenge our assumptions about what early humans were capable of. They suggest a worldview that saw the sky not just as a backdrop, but as a guide, a calendar, and perhaps even a gateway to something greater. Zodiac temples and the origins of cosmic knowledge. Across the ancient world, temples weren't just places of worship. They were calendars, observatories, and cosmic mirrors. In many civilizations, sacred architecture was aligned not only with the sun and moon but also with specific constellations and planetary movements. Among these, the concept of the zodiac, the division of the sky into 12 sections based on the constellations along the ecliptic, emerges as a recurring theme. What makes this remarkable is that these zodiac-based structures appear in places and times where such advanced astronomical knowledge wasn't supposed to exist. One of the most striking examples is the Dendera temple complex in Egypt, particularly the Temple of Hathor, which houses the famous Dendera zodiac. This circular relief, carved into the ceiling, depicts all 12 zodiac signs along with planetary positions and star groupings. The level of detail suggests an understanding of precession and celestial cycles spanning thousands of years. While mainstream Egyptology dates the carving to the Greco-Roman period, many believe it is a reproduction of a far older source, possibly dating back to ancient Egyptian priest astronomers. In Mesopotamia, zodiac-based star charts were already present by the first millennium BCE. The Babylonians assigned gods to each zodiac sign and tracked the movement of planets through them for astrological and calendrical purposes. These observations were deeply integrated into royal decision-making, agricultural planning, and temple rituals. The Babylonian zodiac formed the foundation of the zodiac system later adopted by the Greeks and Romans, an indication of its influence across cultures. The ancient Persians also built temples that reflected cosmic alignments. The sacred site of Persepolis features carvings and inscriptions that reference the zodiac and its connection to divine order. In Vedic India, the temple architecture followed similar principles. Many Hindu temples were built in alignment with the nakshatras, lunar mansions used in Indian astrology, and encoded celestial knowledge into their structure, positioning, and ornamentation. Even in places as distant as Angkor Wat in Cambodia, zodiac symbolism appears. The temple is oriented to the solstices and equinoxes, and its bas-reliefs depict cosmic cycles and timekeeping mechanisms, linking the structure to both solar and stellar systems. The design reflects the Hindu-Buddhist cosmology, where earthly and cosmic realms are interconnected. The consistency with which zodiacal knowledge appears in temple design, across cultures that allegedly had no contact, raises compelling questions. How did distant civilizations arrive at the same system of dividing the sky into 12 parts, each with its own character and influence? Was this knowledge independently developed, or could it be part of a shared legacy, passed down from an earlier, now forgotten source? Some researchers propose that this knowledge may have originated from an advanced proto-civilization with a deep understanding of astronomy, sacred geometry, and cosmic time. Others see it as the result of careful observation and deep spiritual intuition, a universal human response to the movements of the stars. Regardless of the source, Zodiac temples show us that the ancients did not separate science from spirituality. To them, the stars weren't just distant lights, they were part of a living system, reflecting the order of the universe and the rhythms of human life. Their temples were not just buildings, but instruments, measuring time, aligning with the heavens, and reminding those who entered that they were part of something far greater. These structures remain as silent records of that cosmic awareness. And while their creators are long gone, their message still echoes. Look up, pay attention, and remember, you are not separate from the stars. Unknown star maps of the ancient world. Throughout history, civilizations around the world have looked to the stars, not only for storytelling and mythology, but also for navigation, agriculture, architecture, and in some cases, something deeper. What makes this particularly fascinating is that many ancient cultures, separated by geography and time, left behind star maps and sky charts that contain details modern astronomers did not fully understand until the invention of the telescope. These maps raise questions about how such knowledge was obtained, and whether ancient people were far more advanced in observational astronomy than traditionally believed. In Mesopotamia, clay tablets dating back over 4,000 years contain records of celestial events with astonishing accuracy. The Sumerians tracked planetary motion and even had knowledge of a 12-planet system, which some theorists argue includes planets still undiscovered or hypothetical. The famous Babylonian Mul-Apin tablets documented the heliacal rising of stars and marked constellations with remarkable precision, some of which are still used today. Ancient Egyptians aligned their temples and pyramids with celestial bodies, particularly Orion and Sirius. The pyramid texts and star sealings found in tombs like that of Senenmut show detailed depictions of constellations and star movements. These were not just decorative elements. They were embedded in religious and architectural design, showing a clear connection between the cosmos and the sacred. One of the most perplexing examples is the Antikythera mechanism, discovered off the coast of Greece in a shipwreck and dated to around 100 BCE. Though not a star map in the traditional sense, this mechanical device predicted lunar cycles, eclipses, and planetary movements with such precision that it has been dubbed the world's first analog computer. Its complexity challenges assumptions about the level of Greek astronomical understanding at the time. In Mesoamerica, the Maya developed one of the most advanced calendar systems ever seen in the ancient world. Their star charts and cosmic alignments, visible in cities like Chichen Itza, reflected deep knowledge of Venus cycles, solar equinoxes, and lunar phases. Their alignment of temples to celestial events was not random, but built into the design of their civilization. Some Aboriginal Australian groups mapped constellations not only in the stars, but in the dark spaces between stars, like the emu in the sky. These star maps were used for navigation, seasonal migration, and storytelling, passed down orally through thousands of years with uncanny consistency. The biggest mystery isn't just that these cultures mapped the stars, it's how accurately they did it, often without telescopes or modern instruments. Some star charts seem to suggest knowledge of precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis, and stellar alignments from thousands of years before they were officially discovered. There are even depictions in some ancient Indian and Tibetan texts that suggest cyclical cosmic time spanning tens of thousands of years, hinting at an astronomical perspective beyond what we typically associate with ancient civilizations. While most of academia views these star maps as the result of generations of careful observation, others suggest alternative theories. Could there have been forgotten knowledge handed down from a lost civilization? Could ancient cultures have inherited astronomical data from unknown sources, be they remnants of a forgotten golden age or something more speculative? Regardless of the origin, ancient star maps continue to challenge our assumptions about what early humans were capable of. They suggest a worldview that saw the sky not just as a backdrop, but as a guide, a calendar, and perhaps even a gateway to something greater. The Etruscans. Where did they come from, and where did they go? Among the many civilizations that shaped the ancient Mediterranean, few are as mysterious as the Etruscans. Flourishing in central Italy before the rise of Rome, the Etruscans built advanced cities, developed a unique culture, and left behind sophisticated art, metalwork, and religious practices. Yet despite their influence on Roman architecture, religion, and even politics, the Etruscans seem to vanish from history, leaving behind more questions than answers. The Etruscans dominated the region known today as Tuscany, western Umbria, and northern Lazio from roughly 900 BCE until they were gradually absorbed by the Roman Republic by the end of the 4th century BCE. They built city-states that resembled those of ancient Greece, autonomous yet culturally connected. Etruscan cities like Veii, Tarquinia, and Cerveteri were centers of trade, innovation, and ceremony. One of the biggest mysteries surrounding the Etruscans is their origin. Ancient Greek historians like Herodotus believed the Etruscans came from Lydia, in Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, possibly as migrants fleeing famine. Others, such as Dionysius of Halicarnassus, argued they were indigenous to Italy. Modern DNA studies have produced mixed results, with some findings supporting a local origin, while others hint at genetic links to the Near East. To this day, their exact beginnings remain debated. Their language is another unresolved puzzle. The Etruscan alphabet is known. It was adapted from the Greek, but their language is not Indo-European, and very few of their texts have been fully deciphered. Most inscriptions are short funerary or votive texts, and while scholars have identified some meanings, the grammar and structure remain poorly understood. Without fully translated texts, much of their history, philosophy, and mythology remains locked away. Despite these gaps, the Etruscans left behind a rich material legacy. Their tombs, such as those in the necropolises of Tarquinia and Cerveteri, are painted with vivid scenes of banquets, music, dancing, and the afterlife. These frescoes reveal a society that valued art, spirituality, and the pleasures of life. They believed in a complex afterlife and practiced divination through reading animal entrails and interpreting lightning, rituals that later influenced Roman religious practices. The Etruscans were also master builders and metallurgists. They constructed roads, drainage systems, and large public works, including early temples that would later inspire Roman architecture. Their use of the arch in construction predated Roman adoption, and they were skilled at working with bronze and gold, creating intricate jewelry and statues. By the time Rome began its expansion across the Italian peninsula, many Etruscan cities had already weakened due to internal conflict and external pressure. The Romans gradually conquered Etruscan territory, and over time, the Etruscans were assimilated into Roman society. Their language faded, their gods merged with Roman deities, and their names disappeared from historical records. By the 1st century BCE, the Etruscan identity was essentially gone. Yet their influence lived on. The Roman Senate, gladiatorial games, and religious rituals all carry traces of Etruscan origin. Even the Roman alphabet, and by extension, the modern Latin alphabet, can be traced back to the script the Etruscans helped shape. So where did the Etruscans go? In truth, they never really left. They were absorbed into something larger, and in doing so, their distinct culture disappeared, but their fingerprints are still visible in the foundations of Western civilization. Their story is a reminder of how easily a culture can rise, flourish, and fade, leaving behind only art, ruins, and the silent mystery of an undeciphered tongue. The Forbidden Pyramids of China. In the vast and often overlooked landscapes of central China, Particularly in the Shaanxi province near the ancient city of Xi'an, lie massive pyramid-shaped structures that remain largely unknown to the wider world. Unlike the world-famous Egyptian pyramids, these Chinese pyramids are rarely discussed in mainstream historical narratives, and for many years, their existence was even denied by local authorities. Today, they are surrounded by layers of mystery, speculation, and limited access, raising the question: why are these ancient structures not more widely studied? The so-called Chinese pyramids are actually ancient burial mounds, some of them covered by vegetation and resembling small forested hills. Dozens of them are spread across the region, and they are believed to be imperial tombs built during the Qin, Han, and Tang dynasties. The most famous of these is the mausoleum of the first Qin emperor, Qin Shi Huang, who unified China and whose tomb is famously guarded by the Terracotta Army. However, many other pyramid-like tombs dot the region, some of which are far older and far less understood. Western awareness of the Chinese pyramids grew in the 20th century, especially after World War II, when U.S. military pilots flying over China reported seeing enormous, perfectly shaped pyramidal structures, one of which was described as being over 300 meters tall, significantly larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. Photographs taken from the air seemed to confirm these sightings, yet for decades, very little official information was available. Some of the largest and most geometrically precise mounds were not mentioned in Chinese academic literature, and researchers who inquired about them often received limited or vague responses. This lack of transparency has led to a wide range of theories. Some suggest the Chinese government deliberately restricts access to these sites to protect cultural heritage or to avoid drawing attention to politically sensitive historical narratives. Others claim that the authorities want to prevent the growth of alternative theories or spiritual movements linked to ancient astronaut speculation, which suggests these structures might have non-human or forgotten origins. While many of the pyramids have been officially designated as imperial tombs, such as the tombs of Han Dynasty emperors, none of the central chambers of the largest pyramids have ever been excavated. This is due to a combination of legal protections, religious reverence, and logistical challenges. Chinese law prohibits the excavation of certain tombs, especially those of emperors, out of respect for the dead and to preserve the integrity of the sites. In the case of Qin Shi Huang's tomb, for example, the central burial chamber has never been opened, despite being surrounded by thousands of individually sculpted terracotta warriors and rumored to contain rivers of mercury and priceless artifacts. Advanced remote sensing technologies, including ground-penetrating radar, have revealed that many of these mounds contain complex underground structures, chambers, and possibly hidden relics. Some researchers believe they may hold lost knowledge or cultural links to other ancient civilizations. The orientation of several pyramids has also sparked interest, as some align with celestial bodies, solstices, or cardinal points, suggesting that astronomy may have played a role in their construction, similar to pyramid sites in Egypt, Mesoamerica, and elsewhere. Despite their significance, the Chinese pyramids remain shrouded in silence. Unlike Egypt or Mexico, where pyramid complexes are central to tourism and research, the Chinese counterparts are mostly overgrown, unexcavated, and often absent from public guides. This deliberate avoidance continues to feed speculation. Are these just royal tombs, or do they represent something more? Something that could shift how we understand early Chinese civilization and its connections to the broader ancient world? Until the day comes when full excavation and open study are permitted, the Chinese pyramids will remain partially hidden. Silent monuments whose secrets are buried not just in earth, but in policy, uncertainty, and the weight of forgotten time. The crystal skulls of Mesoamerica. Among the many unusual artifacts discovered in Central America, few have generated as much controversy and fascination as the crystal skulls. These life-size skulls, carved from clear or milky quartz, have been attributed to ancient Mesoamerican civilizations such as the Maya or the Aztecs. What sets them apart from other archaeological finds is not just their craftsmanship, but the enduring mysteries surrounding their origin, purpose, and alleged powers. The most famous of these artifacts is the Mitchell-Hedges skull, which was allegedly discovered in the 1920s in the ruins of a Mayan city in Belize. The skull is carved from a single block of clear quartz and is so precisely shaped that, under certain lighting conditions, it refracts light through its eye sockets and base in complex ways. Its smooth finish and anatomical accuracy sparked early claims that it was either incredibly advanced for its time or not made by human hands at all. Over the decades, other crystal skulls have surfaced in private collections and museum vaults around the world. Some are smaller, others more stylized or rough, but many share a similar form and have been linked, sometimes dubiously, to ancient origins. Several reside in major institutions like the British Museum and the Smithsonian, though the institutions themselves have often expressed skepticism about their authenticity. Initial excitement over the skulls was driven by the claim that they were thousands of years old, created by Mesoamerican artisans with unknown tools and possibly imbued with mystical properties. According to popular legends, there are 13 crystal skulls scattered across the world, and when brought together, they will unlock hidden knowledge or trigger a spiritual transformation. This idea, though not supported by historical texts, has become a recurring theme in New Age circles and pop culture. Scientific analysis, however, has complicated the picture. Microscopic studies of several crystal skulls, including the Mitchell-Hedges example, reveal tool marks consistent with modern rotary equipment, suggesting they were most likely produced in Europe in the 19th or early 20th century. These findings have led most scholars to conclude that the skulls are not ancient artifacts, but rather clever forgeries or artworks inspired by Mesoamerican motifs. Still, there are unanswered questions. Even with modern tools, carving quartz to that degree of detail is difficult and time-consuming. Some of the skulls exhibit characteristics that are hard to replicate, such as optical properties that suggest a deep understanding of the material. And despite the lack of archaeological context, none of the owners or collectors have ever produced definitive proof of the skull's origins or creators. Moreover, the myths surrounding the skulls persist. Some claim the skulls have been linked to strange occurrences, malfunctions in electronic equipment, unusual energy sensations, or altered states of consciousness during meditation. These stories have no scientific backing, but they contribute to the aura of mystery that keeps public interest alive. From an academic standpoint, the crystal skulls are most likely modern creations, inspired by romanticized notions of ancient wisdom and lost civilizations. Yet their cultural impact is undeniable. They have become icons of mystery and ancient power, representing humanity's fascination with lost knowledge, sacred objects, and the possibility that our ancestors knew more than we think. Whether relics of a forgotten era or carefully crafted hoaxes, the crystal skulls remain deeply embedded in our imagination, a reminder that sometimes mystery itself is more powerful than truth. The submerged city of Yonaguni, natural formation or man-made ruins. Just off the coast of Yonaguni, a small island at the southwestern tip of Japan's Ryukyu Islands, lies one of the most debated underwater sites in the world. Discovered in 1986 by a local diver looking for new dive spots, the Yonaguni Monument has since sparked international curiosity, speculation, and controversy. Beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean, at depths ranging from 5 to 25 meters, sit massive stone structures that appear to be terraced platforms, steps, pillars, and flat walls, features that strongly resemble the remains of an ancient, sunken city. From above, the structure looks strikingly geometric. Large, flat horizontal surfaces are intersected by vertical walls and right angles that resemble staircases, corridors, and open plazas. The most famous portion is a massive, flat platform sometimes referred to as a pyramid, though it is not pyramid-shaped in the traditional sense. Surrounding this central structure are what some believe to be road-like formations, archways, and megalithic stones that appear to have been placed in deliberate alignment. Proponents of the theory that Yonaguni is man-made argue that the precision of the shapes, the angles of the cuts, and the scale of the site are too sophisticated to be the result of natural geological processes. Japanese marine geologist Professor Masaaki Kimura, who has spent decades studying the site, claims that the monument shows signs of tool marks, carved steps, post holes, and symbols or inscriptions on some of the surfaces. He believes the structure may be the remnants of a city that existed more than 10,000 years ago, possibly during the last ice age, when sea levels were much lower. If Kimura's theory is correct, the Yonaguni monument could be the oldest known human-built structure on Earth, predating not only the pyramids of Egypt but even Göbekli Tepe. This would imply that an advanced civilization existed in East Asia thousands of years before current archaeological records allow, a notion that challenges the mainstream timeline of human development. However, the scientific community remains deeply divided. Most geologists and archaeologists consider the Yonaguni monument to be a natural formation, created by a combination of tectonic activity and erosion. The Ryukyu Islands sit on a seismically active zone, and the area is known for sandstone layers that fracture along horizontal and vertical planes. These natural processes, they argue, could easily produce the block-like shapes and terrace-like structures seen at Yonaguni. They also point out the absence of definitive artifacts. No tools, pottery, or bones have been found on or near the structure to suggest human habitation. Still, the mystery persists. Divers and researchers continue to document anomalies. Rock faces resembling animals, upright stones arranged in rows, and what appear to be sunken paths connecting different parts of the site. These elements do not conclusively prove artificial origin, but they continue to stir debate. Adding to the intrigue is the fact that Yonaguni is not alone. Other underwater sites, off the coasts of India, Cuba, and even in the Mediterranean, have revealed similar submerged formations. Some researchers believe these locations may be remnants of ancient coastal settlements that were flooded during the rapid sea level rise at the end of the last ice age, around 10,000 years ago. If true, it would suggest that a much more complex and widespread human presence existed during prehistoric times than currently acknowledged. Despite the lack of consensus, the Yonaguni monument remains a powerful symbol of the unknown. It challenges us to ask difficult questions. Could there have been an ancient seafaring civilization lost beneath the waves? Have we underestimated the capabilities of prehistoric people? And if these structures are man-made, what cataclysm sent them to the bottom of the ocean, leaving no trace of their builders? In the end, whether natural or artificial, the Yonaguni monument forces us to confront the limits of what we know, and what we think we know, about our past. It represents the vast, unexplored chapters of human history, submerged not only by water, but by time, doubt, and the boundaries of accepted knowledge. Until definitive evidence emerges, Yonaguni will remain suspended between two worlds, one of geology and one of legend. And as long as it stays unresolved, it will continue to inspire those who believe that somewhere beneath the surface, the story of a forgotten world still waits to be told. The lost Persian army of Cambyses, buried by the desert or hidden from history. One of the most enduring military mysteries of the ancient world concerns the fate of an entire army, 50,000 soldiers, according to ancient sources, who vanished without a trace somewhere in the deserts of Egypt. The story, preserved by the Greek historian Herodotus, tells of a Persian king's bold ambition, an ill-fated expedition, and a possible disaster so complete that no man ever returned. For centuries, scholars and explorers have tried to uncover the truth behind the lost army of Cambyses II, and whether it was truly swallowed by the sands, or if the story hides a deeper reality. The tale begins around 525 BCE, during the reign of Cambyses II, son of Cyrus the Great and ruler of the Achaemenid Empire. Having recently conquered Egypt and deposed the pharaoh Psamtik III, Cambyses sought to extend his influence further. According to Herodotus, he sent an army to Siwa Oasis, deep in the Libyan desert, with the goal of destroying the Oracle of Ammonius, a revered temple considered sacred by many Egyptians. Some believe Cambyses wanted to crush Egyptian religious resistance to Persian rule. Others think he intended to validate his own power by replacing or controlling the oracle. Herodotus claims that 50,000 men marched from Thebes into the desert. After a 7-day journey, they reached an oasis, most likely Karga or Dakhla, but continued deeper into the desert. Then, somewhere between the oases and Siwa, disaster struck. A massive sandstorm, described as sudden and overwhelming, buried the entire army in the open desert. According to the account, they were never seen again. For centuries, the story was considered part myth, part historical rumor. Critics questioned the feasibility of such a massive army disappearing without leaving even a fragment of evidence. Yet the narrative persisted, and modern archaeology has given it new life. In the 1990s and early 2000s, two Italian researchers, Angelo and Alfredo Costiglioni, claimed to have discovered evidence of the lost army. Near Baria Oasis, they found arrowheads, ancient weapons, a Persian-style bracelet, and human bones, all consistent with the time period of Cambyses II. They proposed that the army may have taken a slightly different route than Herodotus recorded, and that the remains they uncovered could be part of the doomed force. However, their findings have not been universally accepted. Critics argue that the artifacts could have come from smaller skirmishes or from later periods, and that definitive proof linking them to Cambyses' campaign is still lacking. Egyptian authorities have not confirmed the site as historically conclusive, and no official large-scale excavation has been undertaken to verify the claim. Adding to the mystery is the lack of Persian records about the event. While the Persians were meticulous record-keepers, no known inscriptions or tablets mention a campaign to Siwa, nor the loss of an army in the desert. This absence has led some historians to question whether the story has been exaggerated or even invented by Greek sources who were eager to portray Persian rulers as arrogant and blasphemous. Others have offered alternate theories. Perhaps the army mutinied and dispersed, never reaching the desert at all. Perhaps they were ambushed by local tribes or lost in battle, and the sandstorm tale was added later as symbolic punishment for Cambyses' sacrilegious intentions. Some even suggest the army might have reached Siwa and perished in combat, with no one surviving to record the outcome. What remains undisputed is that Siwa Oasis did eventually fall under Persian influence, though likely through diplomacy rather than conquest. The Temple of Ammonius continued to function for centuries, and even Alexander the Great later visited it, receiving what he believed to be divine confirmation of his rule. Today, the Libyan desert remains vast, harsh, and largely unexplored. Shifting sands still cover entire landscapes, and it is not unthinkable that traces of a lost army, if they exist, could still lie buried beneath the dunes, waiting to be uncovered by a future expedition or a chance discovery. The story of Cambyses' lost army remains open-ended, a blend of legend, political history, and unsolved mystery. Whether swallowed by nature, erased from history, or never real to begin with, the tale continues to captivate, because it touches on something eternal. How quickly even the most powerful forces can be humbled by the unforgiving silence of the earth. The sacred geometry of ancient Greece, symbols, numbers, and the hidden order of the cosmos. In the heart of ancient Greek thought lies an enduring fascination with mathematics, harmony, and form. To the Greeks, numbers were not merely tools for measurement, they were keys to unlocking the hidden order of the universe. This belief gave rise to what we now call sacred geometry, a worldview in which shapes, proportions, and numerical relationships were seen as reflections of cosmic truth. While sacred geometry is often associated with Egyptian or Eastern traditions, its development in classical Greece was both profound and foundational, influencing not only architecture and art, but also philosophy, science, and metaphysics. The roots of Greek sacred geometry are often traced back to the teachings of Pythagoras, the 6th century BCE philosopher and mathematician. While today he is best known for the Pythagorean theorem, Pythagoras and his followers viewed mathematics as a spiritual path. They believed the universe could be explained in terms of number and proportion, and that certain shapes and ratios had divine significance. For them, the study of geometry was not a secular exercise, it was a way to approach truth itself. Central to Pythagorean thought was the concept of number as archetype. The number 1 represented unity and the source of all things. 2 signified duality, contrast, and reflection. 3 symbolized harmony and the triad, an important structure in both logic and theology. 4 suggested order and material reality. From these simple integers, the Pythagoreans derived geometric forms. The triangle, square, pentagon, and more complex shapes like the dodecahedron, which they associated with the cosmos itself. The Greeks believed these shapes were not just aesthetic, they were embedded in nature. They saw geometric patterns in the structure of crystals, the orbit of planets, the branching of trees, and even in the proportions of the human body. This observation led to the development of geometrically guided architecture, especially in temples, where builders used golden ratios, perfect symmetry, and intentional alignments with celestial events. One of the most famous examples is the Parthenon in Athens. While its perfection may seem purely artistic, the design is heavily based on geometric principles. Scholars have noted the use of the golden ratio, approximately 1.618, also known as phi, in the proportions of its facade and layout. Columns are spaced and angled in ways that subtly correct for human visual perception, using geometry to create an illusion of flawless symmetry. The structure embodies not just physical balance, but a metaphysical one, order, clarity, and harmony between Earth and cosmos. Geometry also influenced Greek philosophical thought beyond Pythagoras. Plato, in his dialogues, especially the Timaeus, described the universe as being constructed from 5 perfect solids. The Platonic solids, each associated with one of the classical elements. The cube represented earth, the tetrahedron fire, the octahedron air, the icosahedron water, and the dodecahedron, the most mysterious of all, was said to represent the shape of the universe. These weren't just abstract models, they were believed to be the building blocks of all physical and metaphysical reality. Even Greek mystery schools and spiritual traditions made use of geometric symbolism. Sacred symbols like the tetractes, a triangular figure composed of 10 dots arranged in 4 rows, were used in meditation and initiation. The tetractes symbolized the harmony of the heavens, the relationship between the elements, and the perfection of numerical order. The influence of Greek sacred geometry extended far beyond its time. Later cultures, Roman, Islamic, Renaissance European, borrowed heavily from its concepts. Today, the ideas of proportion, symmetry, and universal patterns still influence fields as diverse as design, architecture, physics, and even spiritual philosophy. Modern scientists studying fractals, quantum patterns, and cosmic structure sometimes find echoes of what the Greeks intuited over 2,000 years ago, that there is an underlying order to the universe, and that geometry might be its language. In the end, sacred geometry in ancient Greece wasn't just a set of shapes or equations, it was a way of seeing the world. A worldview in which beauty, truth, and number were intertwined. Where the temple, the star, and the soul all reflected the same silent code. And where to draw a circle or a triangle was, in its own way, to touch the divine. The tomb of the gods. Were ancient deities buried in Egypt? Egypt is often seen as the land of gods, not just in the mythological sense, but as a civilization that blurred the line between the mortal and the divine. Pharaohs were not merely kings. They were embodiments of the gods on earth. Temples weren't just places of worship, they were gateways between worlds. But in recent decades, a more radical question has emerged. Were the gods themselves buried in Egypt, not as metaphors, but as beings of flesh and blood? This theory, though controversial, is based on a combination of ancient texts, unexplained tombs, and speculative interpretations of mythology. Proponents suggest that at least some of Egypt's oldest and most sacred tombs may not have been constructed for ordinary humans or symbolic rulers, but for entities once revered as actual living gods, possibly even non-human in nature. Central to this idea is the legend of Osiris, the god of death, resurrection, and the underworld. According to ancient myth, Osiris was murdered by his brother Set, dismembered, and scattered across Egypt. His wife, Isis, collected the pieces and brought him back to life long enough to conceive their son, Horus. The myth is usually interpreted symbolically, representing the cycle of death and rebirth, but some researchers have wondered if this was a distorted memory of a real event, one encoded in myth over centuries. One focal point is the Osirian, an enigmatic underground structure in Abydos. Officially described as a symbolic tomb to Osiris, it differs from other temples in style and construction. The Osirian is built from massive granite blocks, arranged in a way that resembles much older megalithic sites. Unlike nearby structures from the same period, which show more refined and decorative architecture, the Osirian appears more primitive but far more massive, leading some to suggest that it predates the temple of Seti I built above it. If so, this would imply an unknown earlier culture, or a hidden purpose, behind its creation. Abydos itself was considered one of the holiest places in Egypt. Pilgrims traveled there for centuries to honor Osiris, and some were even buried in its sacred soil to be closer to him in the afterlife. But what if this reverence was not for a mythological figure, but for a once-living being entombed deep beneath the surface? Other sites have also sparked speculation. The Giza Plateau, for instance, is known for its pyramids and the Great Sphinx, but beneath its surface are a series of shafts and tunnels, many of which remain unexplored or sealed. In the 1990s, ground-penetrating radar detected anomalous voids beneath the Sphinx and nearby areas, leading to rumors of hidden chambers. Some fringe researchers believe these could contain relics or even remains tied to Egypt's original divine rulers, beings mentioned in texts like the Turin King List, which speaks of pre-dynastic kings who ruled Egypt for thousands of years before the known pharaohs. These rulers are sometimes referred to as the Shemsu Hor, or followers of Horus. Inscriptions suggest they were semi-divine, wise, and powerful, and that they passed down knowledge that became the foundation of Egyptian civilization. The mainstream view holds that these are purely mythical figures, but some speculate they may have been real individuals or an earlier race, possibly even extraterrestrial in origin. There is, of course, no conclusive evidence to support these theories. Most archaeologists consider them speculative at best and misleading at worst. Tombs discovered throughout Egypt have always revealed human remains, mummified priests, pharaohs, and nobles, not anything beyond the biological norm. And the idea of gods being buried as physical beings is generally seen as symbolic rather than literal. Yet the allure of the unknown persists. The secrecy surrounding certain excavations, the unexplored chambers, the sudden halting of digs at sensitive sites, all feed into the belief that something lies hidden. Something not meant to be found. Or perhaps, not meant to be understood. Whether these theories ever yield proof or remain in the realm of speculation, they remind us that ancient Egypt was never just a kingdom of sand and stone. It was a civilization obsessed with the afterlife, with resurrection, with beings who came from the stars and returned to the earth. And in that timeless landscape, it's easy to imagine that maybe, just maybe, the gods they worshipped once walked among them and perhaps never truly left. Time travel in Sumerian mythology. Did the ancients understand time differently? The Sumerians, often credited as the creators of the world's first known civilization, emerged in Mesopotamia over 5,000 years ago. They invented writing, developed advanced mathematical systems, and constructed complex cities with temples and irrigation systems. But beyond their technological achievements, their myths and records contain references that, to modern readers, appear oddly advanced, especially when it comes to their understanding of time. Some of these ancient texts have led researchers and alternative historians to wonder. Did the Sumerians possess knowledge about time travel, parallel timelines, or nonlinear time? At the heart of this speculation are the Sumerian king lists, a set of tablets listing the names of rulers and the lengths of their reigns. The early sections of the list are particularly perplexing. Kings are said to have ruled for thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, of years. For example, the first listed king, Alulem, is said to have ruled for 28,800 years. In total, the kings who ruled before a great flood were said to have reigned for nearly 250,000 years. After the flood, reign lengths became more realistic and human-scaled. Mainstream scholars interpret these exaggerated numbers as symbolic or mythological, possibly representing dynastic lines or the idealization of past rulers. But others suggest that these durations might hint at a different understanding of time altogether, or perhaps at beings who experienced time differently from modern humans. Were these kings part of a separate lineage, maybe not entirely human? Did they live in an altered state of time, or could these numbers be misunderstood accounts of time manipulation? Another fascinating source is the Sumerian creation myths, especially texts like the Enuma Elish and stories involving the Anunnaki, a group of powerful beings often described as descending from the heavens. These entities are depicted as not only shaping humanity but also possessing knowledge of the cosmos, the stars, and possibly time itself. Some translations even refer to the Anunnaki as being involved in cycles of human development, rising and falling civilizations, and events that occur over vast periods. This cyclical, almost non-linear concept of time differs sharply from the linear timeline familiar to modern thought. Additionally, there are references to me, pronounced May, which in Sumerian mythology were divine laws or blueprints governing aspects of civilization and the universe. The me were often associated with control over time, destiny, knowledge, and even cosmic principles. These weren't merely rules. They were energetic forces or encoded systems, gifted to humanity by the gods. The idea that information could be encoded, preserved, and even passed through time suggests an awareness of time as a dimension that could be manipulated or navigated. Some fringe theorists go further, arguing that the myths of beings descending from the sky and bringing with them advanced knowledge could be interpreted as ancient encounters with time travelers, or beings who existed outside of linear time. They point to the precision of the Sumerians' astronomical calculations, their sudden emergence as a fully developed civilization, and their sophisticated timekeeping systems based on celestial cycles, including those far beyond ordinary human observation. One of the more curious features of Sumerian timekeeping is their sexagesimal system, based on the number 60. This system led to the 60-minute hour and the 360-degree circle, structures that remain with us to this day. But some researchers suggest that this wasn't just a mathematical convenience. The number 60 was considered sacred, and may have represented a deeper connection to universal cycles, hinting at a layered understanding of time, rhythm, and movement. Despite the appeal of such theories, it's important to note that there is no direct textual evidence that the Sumerians practiced or described time travel in the modern sense. Most references to time in their literature are tied to kingship, divine will, and cosmology. Yet the tone and scale of their texts, especially the way they compress or stretch time, describe impossible lifespans, and speak of epochs that reset after great floods, feel more like science fiction than ancient folklore. Whether metaphor or memory, mythology or misunderstood science, the Sumerians' approach to time continues to intrigue. Their stories resonate because they remind us that our modern linear perception of time may not be the only way to experience it. Perhaps they didn't travel through time as we imagine, but they might have glimpsed its deeper structure, one that bends, repeats, and stretches in ways we are only beginning to consider. And if they did understand something profound about time, maybe they tried to preserve it, not in machines or equations, but in myths, symbols, and tablets baked in clay, waiting for someone far in the future to decode their secrets. The Philosopher's Stone and the Geometry of Immortality, Ancient Alchemy or Lost Science. Throughout history, few symbols have carried as much mystery, hope, and esoteric power as the Philosopher's Stone. Most commonly associated with alchemy, the stone was believed to be a magical substance capable of transforming base metals into gold and, more importantly, granting immortality. While popularized in medieval Europe, the idea of the Philosopher's Stone, or something like it, goes back much further, possibly to ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, India, and China, where transformation, eternal life, and sacred matter were part of both spiritual and scientific inquiry. Alchemists throughout the centuries claimed that the stone was not just a physical object, but also a symbol for a perfected state of being. It represented a deep transformation, not only of materials, but of the soul. To reach the stone, one had to go through a process of purification, dissolution, reformation, and rebirth. This was reflected in the stages of alchemical work: nigredo, blackening; albedo, whitening; citrinitas, yellowing; and rubedo, reddening, each with both chemical and spiritual meaning. But where did the idea come from? Some historians argue that the Philosopher's Stone is a metaphorical concept born from Hermeticism, a philosophical and mystical tradition that emerged in Hellenistic Egypt, combining elements of Greek thought and ancient Egyptian spirituality. The Hermetic texts, particularly the Emerald Tablet attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, describe the union of opposites, the principle as above, so below, and the process of inner and outer transformation. The tablet speaks cryptically of the operation of the sun, which many believe refers to the secret of the stone. Others suggest that the knowledge behind the stone was once practical, not just mystical. Ancient civilizations such as Egypt and India had deep understanding of metallurgy, chemistry, medicine, and geometry. Egyptian texts like the Book of Thoth, a legendary lost work said to contain knowledge of gods and the workings of the universe, were rumored to include secrets of immortality and matter manipulation. In India, the Rasayana tradition of Ayurveda explored the transformation of metals and elixirs, closely resembling alchemical goals. Some researchers believe that the Philosopher's Stone was tied to sacred geometry, a system of understanding the universe through shapes, ratios, and patterns found in nature and the cosmos. The belief was that the universe was built on mathematical harmony, and that by aligning with this harmony, the alchemist could unlock hidden properties of matter. Ancient temples, pyramids, and mandalas were designed with these principles in mind, possibly serving as energetic tools to aid transformation. One of the most intriguing ideas is that the stone wasn't a substance at all, but a frequency, a vibrational state that could be reached through geometry, sound, consciousness, or specific materials configured in precise ways. According to this view, ancient civilizations may have encoded this knowledge into their architecture, symbols, and myths, ensuring it could survive even if its practical application was forgotten. Modern scientists, while skeptical of the stone's legendary powers, have begun to rediscover how geometry, sound frequencies, and electromagnetic fields influence matter. Experiments in quantum physics and material science hint that matter and energy are more flexible than previously thought. Ideas once dismissed as mystical, transmutation, resonance, energy healing, are slowly finding a place at the edge of modern research. So, was the Philosopher's Stone ever real? If it was, perhaps it wasn't a single object, but a system, a hidden science that merged physics and consciousness, chemistry and spirituality. It may have been lost, suppressed, or transformed into legend over time. Or maybe it's still there, waiting to be rediscovered not in ancient vaults, but in patterns, symbols, and forgotten languages humanity is just beginning to decode. Whatever the truth, the stone represents something timeless. The pursuit of perfection, the desire to transcend limits, and the belief that transformation, whether of metal or the self, is possible. And whether myth or memory, it continues to inspire those who believe that knowledge once thought impossible may one day be understood again. The tomb of Alexander the Great, history's greatest missing burial. Alexander the Great was one of the most legendary figures in human history. A military genius, a king, and a symbol of unstoppable ambition. By the time of his death in 323 BCE, he had conquered most of the known world, from Greece to Egypt, Persia, and parts of India. He had created an empire unlike anything the world had seen. And yet, despite the meticulous records kept about his life and campaigns, one of the most crucial aspects of his story remains unsolved to this day. His final resting place is missing. According to historical sources, Alexander died in the palace of Nebuchadnezzar II in Babylon, at the age of 32. The cause of death remains a subject of debate, possibly fever, poisoning, or an autoimmune disorder, but what followed his death is even more mysterious. Ancient writers agree that Alexander's body was preserved in honey or some form of embalming fluid and placed in a magnificent gold sarcophagus. His wish, reportedly, was to be buried at the temple of Zeus Ammon in the Siwa Oasis, Egypt, a place he had visited during his lifetime and believed to hold divine significance. But that didn't happen. Instead, his funeral procession, headed toward Macedonia, was hijacked, most likely by Ptolemy I, one of Alexander's generals who later became ruler of Egypt. Ptolemy allegedly redirected the body to Memphis, and later it was moved to Alexandria, the city Alexander founded and intended to be the capital of his empire. There, a grand tomb or mausoleum was reportedly constructed, and Alexander's remains were placed in a sarcophagus made of gold, later replaced with glass or alabaster, according to some sources. For several centuries, multiple Roman emperors, including Julius Caesar, Augustus, Caligula, Septimius Severus, and Caracalla, visited Alexander's tomb in Alexandria. These visits are documented by ancient historians and confirm that the tomb not only existed but remained a significant place of political and symbolic power well into the Roman period. Augustus is even said to have kissed Alexander's body and crowned it with flowers. And then it disappeared. By the 3rd or 4th century CE, the tomb seems to vanish from historical records. Alexandria suffered a series of disasters: earthquakes, riots, wars, and the gradual decline of the Roman Empire. Some scholars believe the tomb was destroyed during one of these events, or perhaps buried by natural disasters and then forgotten. Others suggest it may have been intentionally concealed during the rise of Christianity, when pagan monuments were often defaced or dismantled. Despite centuries of searching, the tomb has never been conclusively found. Numerous excavations in Alexandria and beyond have turned up possible locations, but nothing that can be definitively linked to Alexander himself. Some researchers believe the tomb is buried beneath the modern city of Alexandria, inaccessible without demolishing large portions of the urban center. Others speculate it lies underwater, lost beneath the Mediterranean due to coastal erosion or earthquakes that reshaped the shoreline. More fringe theories propose that Alexander's body was secretly relocated, perhaps to protect it from desecration. Some even suggest it may lie in an entirely different country, hidden, perhaps even venerated under a different identity. A few have drawn connections to various unexplained tombs and relics across North Africa, the Middle East, and even Europe. The mystery of Alexander's tomb is not just an archaeological enigma. It touches on issues of legacy, identity, and control. For centuries, rulers used physical remains of saints, emperors, or pharaohs to legitimize their authority. Owning the tomb of Alexander the Great would be more than symbolic. It would be a claim to power, a link to divine kingship. It's possible that his tomb was hidden for this very reason, to prevent it from being used by rivals or enemies as a political tool. Today, the search continues. New technologies such as ground-penetrating radar and satellite imaging may eventually uncover what time, war, and history have tried to erase. Until then, the tomb of the man who conquered the world remains conquered by silence. And perhaps, fittingly, the man who never lost a battle has claimed one final victory, keeping his greatest secret intact, hidden beneath the sands of time. The maps before Columbus. Ancient knowledge of the Americas? The widely accepted narrative of global exploration tells us that Christopher Columbus discovered the Americas in 1492. Yet for decades, if not centuries, evidence has surfaced suggesting that other civilizations may have reached the Americas long before Columbus, and possibly even mapped them. From ancient cartographic anomalies to Old World artifacts found in the New World, the question persists: did ancient cultures possess knowledge of the Americas far earlier than we thought? One of the most famous pieces of this puzzle is the Piri Reis Map, drawn in 1513 by Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis. The map includes parts of South America's east coast with astonishing detail, and possibly even Antarctica's ice-free coastline, as previously discussed. Piri Reis himself claimed he had drawn the map using older source materials, some of which he attributed to maps from the time of Alexander the Great. If true, this suggests that knowledge of the Americas, or at least lands far to the west, existed long before the age of exploration. But the Piri Reis map is not the only anomaly. The Vinland map, believed by some to be from the 15th century and showing part of North America, suggests the Norse explored much further than Greenland and Newfoundland. Archaeological confirmation of Norse settlement at L'Anse aux Meadows in modern-day Canada supports the idea that Vikings reached the Americas nearly 500 years before Columbus. Still, the extent of their exploration and their potential influence remains largely unknown. Then there are the Chinese claims, particularly those tied to Admiral Zhang He, whose fleet traveled vast distances during the early 1400s. Some theorists suggest that Chinese explorers may have reached the Pacific coasts of the Americas and that lost Chinese maps once recorded these journeys. A controversial book, 1421, The Year China Discovered America, popularized this idea, though the evidence remains debated among historians. Beyond maps, there are also ancient artifacts and legends that hint at earlier contact. Cocaine and nicotine residues have reportedly been found in Egyptian mummies, substances native only to the Americas, leading to speculation about transoceanic trade routes far earlier than previously believed. While these claims are also contested, they continue to provoke questions about how isolated ancient civilizations truly were. There are also linguistic and cultural parallels between Old World and New World societies. For instance, similarities in pyramid construction, sun worship, and cosmic calendars in places like Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Mesoamerica have led some to theorize a shared or transferred body of ancient knowledge. Mainstream scholars usually attribute this to parallel development, but alternative researchers argue that it may point to forgotten episodes of contact. And what about the ancient Greeks and Romans? Some ancient writings reference lands far to the west, across the Great Ocean. Plato, for instance, described Atlantis as lying beyond the Pillars of Heracles, a phrase often interpreted to mean the Strait of Gibraltar. Could these myths have roots in dim memories of the Western continents? Despite growing interest, mainstream academia remains cautious, primarily because direct archaeological evidence of Old World visitors in the Americas, predating the Norse, is limited. Without concrete physical remains, most claims remain speculative. However, the consistency of the legends, the presence of early maps with uncanny accuracy, and the increasing accessibility of high-tech tools for historical analysis are steadily shifting the conversation. Today, researchers are revisiting old maps with modern techniques, scanning for hidden layers, analyzing ink composition, and cross-referencing with updated satellite imagery. What they're finding often doesn't match the official timelines. Geographic features appear where they shouldn't. Coastlines are depicted more accurately than possible for the known tools of the time, and strange annotations in ancient languages suggest earlier, forgotten knowledge. Whether through global trade, lost civilizations, or long-forgotten expeditions, the idea that the world was far more interconnected in ancient times is no longer considered fringe. It is becoming a serious subject of inquiry. So, did ancient peoples map the Americas before Columbus set sail? The answer remains elusive. But the mounting evidence, from maps to myths, suggests that history may still be hiding chapters that could redefine our understanding of global exploration, cultural exchange, and the true reach of human curiosity. The hidden knowledge of the zodiacs. Were the stars encoding a message? The zodiac, a familiar part of modern astrology, traces its roots deep into antiquity, far beyond daily horoscopes and personality types. For ancient civilizations, the zodiac wasn't just a way to divide the sky into 12 sections. It was a cosmic code, a symbolic language believed to reflect the structure of the universe, time, and perhaps even human destiny. The deeper one looks, the more the question arises. Were the signs of the zodiac part of a global system of forgotten knowledge, encoded in the stars themselves? The earliest known evidence of zodiacal systems appears in Babylon, around the 5th century BCE, where scholars observed the sun's path across the sky, known as the ecliptic, and divided it into 12 segments, each aligned with a constellation. These 12 signs formed the foundation of what would later become the Western zodiac. But similar ideas appear independently across the world, suggesting something more universal. In ancient Egypt, temples like Dendera preserve images of the zodiac on ceilings and walls, depicted with extraordinary detail, aligning with star movements, solstices, and equinoxes. The famous Dendera zodiac, now in the Louvre, is a circular star chart that includes the 12 zodiac signs, planetary bodies, and even eclipses. It has led some researchers to believe the Egyptians possessed precessional knowledge, an awareness that the Earth wobbles on its axis over a 26,000-year cycle, subtly shifting the position of stars over millennia. Such knowledge, if accurate, implies long-term astronomical observation and a more advanced understanding of celestial mechanics than traditionally assumed. The Maya, too, tracked the skies with astounding precision. While their system differs from the 12-sign zodiac, they followed planetary movements, solar cycles, and constellations, and encoded this data in calendars that reached thousands of years into the past and future. The Mayan long count, for example, is so precise that it sparked global fascination during the 2012 phenomenon. The sophistication of their sky mapping rivals that of more recognized ancient astronomers. In India, the Jyotisha system of Vedic astrology mirrors the 12-sign zodiac, but with even deeper spiritual implications. Ancient Sanskrit texts describe cosmic cycles, yugas, planetary deities, grahas, and celestial events as direct reflections of spiritual energies. Their use of nakshatras, or lunar mansions, 27 or 28 divisions of the sky, adds another layer of cosmic measurement. This level of complexity suggests that the ancients were not just observing the sky for agriculture or navigation, but believed they were decoding a divine order. Zodiacal symbolism also appears in sacred architecture, mythology, and ritual calendars around the world. In Greece, the 12 labors of Hercules are believed by some to represent the 12 signs of the zodiac. In Judaism, the 12 tribes of Israel have been linked to the 12 constellations. Christian art often features Christ with the 12 apostles in arrangements that mirror sun and zodiac imagery, especially in medieval and Renaissance iconography. The repetition of the 12-fold division in myth, religion, and architecture suggests that the zodiac may have been viewed as a sacred pattern embedded in all things. This leads some researchers to suggest that the zodiac is more than an observational system. It is an encoded framework, passed down through symbols, myths, and rituals. According to this theory, ancient people may have seen the cosmos as a living intelligence, and the zodiac as its language. In this view, each sign isn't just a constellation. It's a doorway, a phase of consciousness, or a vibrational key in a larger universal cycle. One of the more esoteric interpretations involves the idea that the zodiac reflects not just the movement of stars, but the human soul's journey through incarnation, with each sign representing a different lesson or archetypal phase. Some even connect the 12 signs with the structure of the human body, the chakras, or stages of alchemical transformation. Despite millennia of evolution, suppression, and reinterpretation, the core structure of the zodiac has survived. And while modern astrology has drifted into pop culture, the roots of the system suggest a far more profound origin. It's possible that the zodiac was once part of a planet-wide spiritual science, used to synchronize human life with cosmic rhythms, both materially and metaphysically. What we have today may be only fragments, surviving in calendars, myths, temple blueprints, and ancient star maps, but these fragments hint at a time when the stars were more than distant lights. They were teachers, keepers of rhythm, and perhaps even carriers of messages written across eternity, waiting to be fully understood again. Was the zodiac simply a tool for tracking the sun, or a key left behind by an ancient intelligence that once understood how time, space, and consciousness all move as one? We may not have the full answer yet, but as humanity continues to rediscover its ancient roots, the stars above remain exactly where they have always been, silent, patient, and full of meaning. The Stargates of the ancient world, myth or lost technology. Across ancient civilizations, there are recurring stories of portals, gateways, and doorways to the stars, places where gods descended, where heroes crossed into other worlds, or where divine messages were received. In the modern age, these have been grouped under the term Stargates, a concept popularized by science fiction, but with roots in ancient texts, structures, and legends from all over the globe. The question is, were these just metaphors for spiritual journeys, or do they hint at a forgotten form of advanced technology or interdimensional access? One of the most talked-about locations is Puerta de Hayu Marca, also known as the Gate of the Gods, located in the Peruvian Andes near Lake Titicaca. Carved into a massive rock face, it resembles a flat T-shaped doorway, leading nowhere, just solid stone behind it. Local legends speak of ancient priests who used the portal to communicate with the gods and even disappear through the stone itself using a golden disc as a key. Some versions claim that the gods themselves passed through the gate when they first arrived on Earth. In Egypt, the temples of Karnak and Abydos are filled with carvings that depict strange figures and celestial symbols. Certain interpretations suggest that the false doors found in tombs, stone slabs representing gateways to the afterlife, might have been symbolic representations of real energetic gateways used in ritual to access other planes. At Abydos, a controversial carving has been claimed to show images resembling modern aircraft, fueling speculation about the transmission of technological knowledge or travel between worlds. The Sumerians, perhaps more than any other ancient people, embedded this idea into their mythology. The Anunnaki, their sky gods, were said to arrive from the heavens using gateways known as Anki, which literally means bond between heaven and earth. These weren't just poetic phrases, they were treated as functional points of connection, perhaps real places where energy or communication passed between dimensions or realms. Another intriguing site is the Amaru Muru in Bolivia, where an enormous stone formation mirrors the legends of Stargates. Similar myths are found in India, where ancient texts like the Mahabharata describe cities in the sky, flying machines, Vimanas, and divine portals connecting Earth to other realms. In Hindu temples, especially those built according to ancient Vastu principles, doorways and central shrines are aligned in ways that suggest energetic focal points, spaces where spiritual or cosmic forces were meant to concentrate. Even in the biblical tradition, the idea of Jacob's ladder, a stairway reaching into the heavens where angels ascend and descend, has been interpreted by some as a metaphor for a stargate or dimensional passage. Other cultures speak of rainbow bridges, pillars of light, or sacred mountain passes used by deities to travel between realms. Modern interpretations often blend these ancient stories with quantum theory, suggesting that what the ancients called gods or spirits may have been advanced beings using technology or knowledge of physics far beyond our own. Could it be that certain locations on Earth, through magnetic fields, geometry, or resonance, allow for shifts in space-time or contact with other dimensions? If so, were ancient temples, stone circles, and monuments intentionally built on these hotspots to serve as anchoring points for cosmic interaction? Skeptics argue that all this is simply metaphor, expressions of altered consciousness, spiritual visions, or poetic descriptions of death and the afterlife. But the global consistency of these myths, across continents and cultures, suggests that the concept of stargates may be rooted in more than just imagination. Today, these sites continue to attract pilgrims, researchers, and spiritual seekers. Some claim strange experiences near these ancient portals, feelings of disorientation, visions, energy shifts. Whether psychological, energetic, or something else, these reports echo the ancient idea that certain places are thinner, closer to something beyond ordinary perception. So we ask, were stargates merely symbolic, or did ancient civilizations once understand how to access the fabric of space and time in ways we no longer comprehend? If such knowledge existed, was it lost, hidden, or perhaps waiting to be rediscovered? Whatever the answer, the gates remain, silent, unmoving, and possibly not closed. The Tower of Babel, ancient megastructure or Stargate technology. The story of the Tower of Babel, found in the Book of Genesis, tells of a united humanity who once spoke a single language and attempted to build a tower that reaches to the heavens. In response, God allegedly confused their speech and scattered them across the earth, ending the project and dispersing human civilization. Traditionally, this tale has been seen as a metaphor for human pride, divine punishment, and the origins of linguistic diversity. But what if there is more to the story than metaphor? What if the Tower of Babel was not just a symbolic fable, but a real structure, one with technological implications we still don't fully understand? Ancient Mesopotamian texts and archaeological sites provide tantalizing clues. Many scholars associate the Tower of Babel with the Anunnaki, a massive ziggurat that once stood in the city of Babylon. Its name means Temple of the Foundation of Heaven and Earth, and it was dedicated to the god Marduk. Historical records indicate that the structure may have reached as high as 90 meters, extraordinary for its time. But beyond its physical scale, the purpose of such a tower remains unclear. Was it merely a temple, or did it serve another, more profound function? In Mesopotamian cosmology, ziggurats weren't just monuments. They were axis mundi, central points where the divine and human realms connected. The top of the ziggurat was believed to be the dwelling place of the gods, and rituals were designed to invoke communication or union with celestial beings. In this context, the heaven referenced in the Babel story may not have referred to the sky in a literal sense, but to another dimension or a higher realm of existence. Some alternative researchers propose that the Tower of Babel was more than architecture. It may have been an attempt to build a stargate or energy channel, a structure capable of accessing other planes or realms. In this theory, the confusion of languages was not merely a divine curse but perhaps a collapse of resonance or frequency, interrupting a unified field of consciousness that had previously enabled collective action or communication on a global scale. The association of language with energy and structure is also curious. Modern physics and information theory suggest that the universe may be structured on informational code, frequency, vibration, and resonance. If ancient builders understood this on some level, it's possible they believed certain structures could tune humanity into a higher state or even facilitate contact with non-human intelligences. Additionally, the story of Babel mirrors other global myths of catastrophic separation, where a once unified world is shattered or divided, often after the construction of a forbidden tower, machine, or monument. In some versions of Sumerian, Mayan, or Indian mythology, the idea of a tower, pillar, or bridge to the heavens is a recurring symbol, often ending in disaster. In the biblical account, God's concern is striking. If as one people speaking the same language they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan will be impossible for them. This passage implies not only that the tower was functional, but that human unity and intention were the true power being suppressed. Could this be a reference to a technology that was activated by consciousness, a sort of ancient quantum interface enabled by mass collaboration or harmonic resonance? On a more grounded level, there is still mystery surrounding the Etemenanke itself. Despite being a prominent monument, very little of the original structure remains, and much of our understanding comes from later texts and fragments. The site was dismantled and rebuilt multiple times, and efforts to reconstruct it have always been incomplete. Even Alexander the Great reportedly attempted to rebuild the ziggurat, but halted the project for unknown reasons. So, what was the Tower of Babel really? A religious temple, a cautionary tale, a misunderstood memory of ancient technology, or all of the above? Whether symbolic or literal, the story endures because it touches a fundamental theme: the tension between human potential and limitation. It asks us what humanity is capable of when united, and what forces might oppose that unity. And perhaps it also asks this: was Babel a warning or a blueprint? The mechanical gods of India. Were the Devas using technology? Ancient Indian texts are among the oldest surviving literary works in the world. The Mahabharata, Ramayana, and the Vedas contain vast, intricate descriptions of cosmic battles, divine beings, and flying machines, descriptions so vivid and at times so technical that some researchers have begun to wonder whether these were not just spiritual metaphors, but actual accounts of advanced technology used in deep antiquity. Among the most intriguing possibilities is the idea that the Devas, the godlike beings of Hindu mythology, were not purely mythical, but rather highly advanced intelligences, possibly even technologically enhanced beings, who interacted with early human civilizations. One of the most frequently cited elements in this theory is the concept of Vimanas, flying machines described in numerous ancient Sanskrit texts. Vimanas are depicted in different forms, some shaped like spheres, others like chariots or palaces that could travel through air, space, and even underwater. The Vimana Shastra, a 20th-century Sanskrit text claimed to be based on ancient sources, provides mechanical details about Vimana construction, propulsion systems, and materials. Though modern scholars have questioned its authenticity and scientific validity, the very idea that such a technical manual might be rooted in a lost tradition continues to spark debate. The Mahabharata and Ramayana also describe powerful weapons that resemble modern or futuristic technology. There are references to arrows that roar like thunder, weapons that can blind or paralyze entire armies, and devices that produce blinding light, extreme heat, and shock waves. The descriptions of some divine weapons, such as the Brahmastra, sound eerily similar to modern nuclear weaponry, with warnings about environmental damage, radiation, and aftermaths where nothing grows. These were not presented as myths within the texts, but as factual parts of epic warfare. Another striking feature is the portrayal of divine armor, mechanical mounts, and robotic assistants. Certain gods are accompanied by creatures or entities that behave like sentient machines, automated beings that perform tasks, fight in battles, or serve in temples. In the South Indian temples, there are sculptures and carvings that resemble gears, wheels, and control panels, leading some to speculate that knowledge of complex engineering existed far earlier than documented by mainstream history. Descriptions of cities like Lanka, from the Ramayana, or Dvarka, from Krishna's legend, also contain elements that hint at technological sophistication: floating palaces, energy weapons, moving walkways, and surveillance systems. Dvarka, in particular, is of interest to modern archaeology. Underwater excavations off the coast of Gujarat have revealed submerged structures and artifacts that suggest an ancient city may have existed there, one that aligns with the timeline and location described in Hindu epics. Supporters of the ancient technology theory argue that these stories could be misinterpreted memories of a lost high civilization, possibly destroyed in a great war or natural disaster. They suggest that the Devas were either survivors of that culture or visitors from another world or dimension, sharing knowledge that was later preserved in symbolic form through religious tradition. Mainstream historians, however, view these narratives as allegorical or spiritual, stories meant to convey moral and philosophical lessons, not technical realities. They argue that poetic language, divine metaphor, and cultural imagination are responsible for the fantastic descriptions, not any forgotten science. Still, the precision and consistency of technological themes across multiple texts and centuries cannot be easily dismissed. Whether literal or symbolic, the Devas of Hindu mythology are portrayed not just as gods, but as beings with access to profound power, knowledge, and tools. If they did use technology, it was so advanced it appeared to the ancients as magic, a concept echoed in Arthur C. Clarke's famous quote, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." So the question remains, were the Devas merely divine archetypes or guardians of a lost scientific tradition? And could the stories of their machines, weapons, and knowledge be echoes of a forgotten technological age, one whose secrets are still waiting to be understood? The sound technology of the ancients. Did they move stones with vibration? Some of the greatest architectural achievements of the ancient world remain unexplained by conventional archaeology. From the perfectly fitted megaliths of Sacsayhuaman in Peru to the massive stone blocks used in the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza, one recurring question arises. How did ancient civilizations move and manipulate such enormous stones, often weighing hundreds of tons, with no access to modern machinery? One of the most persistent and intriguing theories suggests that the ancients may have understood and applied the use of sound or vibration, a form of technology that has since been forgotten or ignored. The idea that sound could be used to move objects might sound like science fiction, but it's rooted in several ancient legends, reports, and even modern experiments. In Tibetan tradition, there are stories of monks using trumpets, drums, and chants to lift large stones into place by aligning them with rhythmic sound. In one 1930s account by Swedish engineer Jarl Henrik Jelson, he claimed to witness Tibetan monks using sound instruments arranged in a semicircle to levitate large stones into the air and place them on high ledges. Though this account has never been verified, it has become a staple in discussions about ancient acoustic technology. In Egypt, several unexplained features of pyramid construction hint at non-mechanical methods of lifting and shaping stone. Quarry marks, resonance chambers, and the inexplicable precision cuts in granite, some achieved with a smoothness modern tools struggle to replicate, have led researchers to consider whether sound or vibration played a role. The interior of the Great Pyramid, especially the so-called King's Chamber, exhibits acoustic properties that amplify and sustain certain frequencies. Was this simply coincidental, or was the chamber designed to resonate in a specific way? Studies have shown that sound waves, particularly at certain frequencies, can have powerful effects on materials. Acoustic levitation, a phenomenon where small objects are suspended in the air using focused sound waves, has been replicated in laboratory conditions. While modern acoustic levitation can only lift tiny objects, it raises the possibility that scaled-up technologies, perhaps using unknown materials or advanced harmonics, could have been used in ancient times. Other megalithic sites add to the mystery. At Baalbek in Lebanon, the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, a single megalith weighing over 1,000 tons, remains partially buried in the quarry. Nearby, even larger stones, some weighing as much as 1,200 tons, were somehow transported and precisely placed in the foundations of the Roman-era temple complex. No known ancient method of transport, not even with thousands of laborers, could account for this feat without leaving more evidence of tools or scaffolding. Could a forgotten method involving vibrational resonance have been used instead? There is also the mysterious work of Edward Leedskalnin, the creator of Coral Castle in Florida. In the early 20th century, Leedskalnin, an untrained Latvian immigrant, built the massive stone structure entirely by himself, moving and lifting coral blocks weighing up to 30 tons without cranes or help. He worked in secret and never revealed his methods, but hinted cryptically that he had discovered the secret of the pyramids, involving magnetism, vibration, and polarity. Some modern researchers believe that ancient civilizations may have understood resonant frequencies, the natural vibrational signature of an object or material, and how to manipulate them. Certain materials, like granite and limestone, have piezoelectric properties, meaning they can generate electrical energy under pressure. Could it be that these materials were chosen not just for their durability, but for their energetic qualities, and that sound was used to activate or interact with them? Skeptics argue that there is no definitive evidence for sound-based construction techniques. They point to ramps, pulleys, manpower, and ingenuity as more likely explanations. But this view often fails to account for the extreme precision, the sheer weight, and the astronomical alignment of many ancient structures, all accomplished with tools that, on record, seem inadequate. Ultimately, the question of whether ancient people used sound to manipulate matter remains open. But what is certain is that sound was deeply important to them, not just as music or language, but as a force. Across cultures, we find the use of chanting, harmonics, sacred tones, and musical instruments in temples, tombs, and ceremonies. Perhaps they were not just honoring the gods, but interacting with the very vibrations of reality. If the ancients did indeed possess this knowledge, it suggests a level of scientific and spiritual understanding far more advanced and far more holistic than we typically attribute to early civilizations. A forgotten technology? Or a glimpse into a reality where energy, sound, and consciousness were part of the same equation. Whatever the truth, the stones remain. Still, immovable, and yet, somehow, moved. The Pyramid of Hellinikon, a forgotten Greek enigma. When most people think of pyramids, their minds immediately go to Egypt or perhaps Mesoamerica. But few are aware that pyramidal structures exist in Greece, and one of the most mysterious among them is the Pyramid of Hellinikon, located in the region of Argolis, in the eastern Peloponnese. Unlike the massive pyramids of Giza, this structure is modest in size and appears more like a fortified monument. Yet its origin, purpose, and especially its age remain deeply contested and potentially paradigm-shifting. The Pyramid of Hellinikon is built with massive limestone blocks, fitted together with a degree of precision unusual for its time. Archaeological records show that it once had an internal chamber and a corridor, suggesting it may have served as a tomb, a guard post, or possibly something more symbolic. What makes the site particularly intriguing is that carbon dating conducted by researchers from the Academy of Athens and the University of Edinburgh in the 1990s yielded astonishing results. Some samples suggested the pyramid could be as old as 2720 BCE, possibly older than the Great Pyramid of Giza. These findings sparked immediate controversy. Many Greek archaeologists questioned the reliability of the dating method used, arguing that the organic materials dated may not reflect the actual time of construction. Official narratives still place the structure around the 4th century BCE, during the classical period. But the possibility that it could predate Egyptian pyramids and be built in Europe raises profound questions about the transmission of architectural knowledge and the nature of early civilizations in the Mediterranean. If the Hellinikon pyramid truly is from the 3rd millennium BCE, it challenges the long-held assumption that monumental pyramid building originated solely in Egypt and spread outward. It may indicate that multiple cultures independently developed pyramid-shaped architecture, or that there was a forgotten exchange of ideas long before recorded history allows. Equally puzzling is the purpose of the pyramid. Unlike Egyptian pyramids, which were primarily tombs for pharaohs, no burial has ever been found inside the Hellinikon structure. Some researchers believe it may have been a military outpost, due to its position overlooking an important travel route. Others propose a ceremonial function, possibly aligned with the stars or solstices, though no conclusive astronomical alignment has yet been confirmed. Alternative researchers have speculated even further. They suggest that the structure's geometry, location, and orientation may have been part of an energetic grid, a concept popular among those who study ancient earth energies. In this view, the pyramid is not an isolated anomaly, but part of a prehistoric global system of knowledge involving sacred geometry, magnetism, and planetary harmonics. Supporters of this theory point to other Greek pyramids, such as the nearby Pyramid of Ligurio, as evidence of a regional tradition of pyramid construction that has been downplayed or ignored by mainstream archaeology. While these structures are smaller and more eroded, they suggest that Hellinikon was not unique, and that ancient Greeks, or their ancestors, may have been experimenting with this architectural form for purposes we still don't fully understand. In the absence of inscriptions, artifacts, or clear historical references, the Hellinikon pyramid remains an enigma. Its simplicity masks a complexity of unanswered questions. Why was it built in this shape? Who commissioned it? And why is it not more widely known, even within Greece itself? Perhaps it's because the answers it may contain are too inconvenient, pointing to a time when civilizations were far more advanced, connected, or ambitious than traditional history allows. The Pyramid of Hellinikon stands alone, quiet and weathered, in the hills of the Peloponnese. Most who pass it never realize that it might be the oldest pyramid in the world, and that its stones might carry the echoes of a story yet to be told. The Copper Scroll of Qumran, a treasure map or a hidden history. In 1952, during excavations near the Dead Sea, archaeologists made a discovery unlike any of the other Dead Sea Scrolls. While most of the scrolls were made of parchment or papyrus and contained religious writings, this one was made entirely of metal, copper, rolled into two brittle sheets and inscribed with a strange, cryptic list. Known today as the Copper Scroll, it immediately stood out not only for its material but for its content. Unlike the other scrolls, which were theological, philosophical, or communal in nature, this one appeared to be a treasure map, detailing the hidden locations of massive hoards of gold, silver, and sacred artifacts. Written in a distinct form of Mishnaic Hebrew, the Copper Scroll describes 64 separate locations, each allegedly containing enormous quantities of precious metals. The list is specific. In the cave of the old washer's chamber on the third terrace, dig down 7 cubits, 600 talents of silver are buried there. Other entries mention items that may have belonged to the first or second temple of Jerusalem, including priestly vestments and sacred vessels. If authentic, the total value of the treasure would be in the billions of dollars by today's standards. But the scroll offers no context, no mention of who hid the treasure, when, or why. Its writing style is dry and utilitarian, giving coordinates without story. This stark contrast has puzzled scholars for decades. Was this a real list of hidden wealth? A symbolic spiritual document? Or a coded message? Some researchers believe the scroll is connected to the Second Temple, destroyed by the Romans in 70 CE. According to this theory, the treasures were hidden by members of a Jewish sect, possibly the Essenes, hoping to preserve the temple's riches from being plundered. Yet others argue the quantities mentioned are too vast to be realistic, suggesting the list may reference legendary or symbolic wealth, rather than actual hoards of gold. Archaeologists and treasure hunters alike have searched the areas mentioned in the scroll, primarily around Qumran, Jericho, and the Judean desert, but none of the treasures have been found. This has led some to suggest that the items were already recovered in antiquity, or that the references were intentionally cryptic to prevent looting. Others suspect the scroll points to a different geographic region altogether, possibly one now inaccessible or lost to time. An even more provocative theory suggests that the Copper Scroll may be tied to the Ark of the Covenant, long thought to be one of history's greatest lost relics. Some lines in the scroll seem to describe temple-related objects of deep religious significance, raising the possibility that it documents not just wealth, but sacred items hidden to protect them from Roman or foreign hands. If true, it would mean the scroll is not a treasure map in the material sense, but a historical record of resistance, exile, and preservation. Then there is the question of why the scroll was engraved in copper in the first place. Unlike the other Dead Sea Scrolls, which would have decayed over time, the Copper Scroll was designed to last. Some suggest this indicates its extreme importance, a permanent message meant for those in the distant future. Was it intended for a specific group of initiates? A remnant community awaiting a future restoration of the temple? Or was it part of a larger, now-lost collection of metallic scrolls that contained knowledge far beyond what we've recovered? To this day, the copper scroll remains unmatched in its mystery. Its language is clear, yet its meaning elusive. Its directions are specific, yet they've led nowhere. It lies at the crossroads of biblical legend, archaeological curiosity, and historical conspiracy. Whether it's a literal treasure map, a decoy, or a coded record of a forgotten past, the copper scroll continues to fascinate, because it represents something still buried. Not just beneath the sands of the desert, but beneath the surface of what we think we know about ancient history. And perhaps, one day, someone will dig in the right place, and the world will change. The Temple of Solomon, ancient power center or lost technology hub. The Temple of Solomon, also known as the First Temple, occupies a near-mythical place in religious, historical, and esoteric traditions. Described in vivid detail in the Hebrew Bible, the temple was said to be a dwelling place for the divine presence, the centerpiece of ancient Jerusalem, and the resting place of the Ark of the Covenant. Built under the reign of King Solomon around the 10th century BCE, it was destroyed centuries later by the Babylonians. But beyond its religious importance, some believe the temple was more than a house of worship. It may have been a technological and energetic structure, a kind of ancient power center whose true function has been misunderstood or deliberately concealed. The biblical descriptions of Solomon's temple, especially in the books of Kings and Chronicles, include precise measurements, materials, and architectural features. Cedar from Lebanon, gold overlays, intricate carvings, and bronze pillars named Jachin and Boaz, all are mentioned in exacting detail. Many researchers have noted that the level of specificity is unusual for ancient religious texts, leading to speculation that the temple's design held mathematical, astronomical, or even electromagnetic significance. One recurring theme among alternative researchers is the connection between the temple and sacred geometry. The layout of the Holy of Holies, the inner sanctum, follows a cube-like structure, which mirrors the geometrical symbolism found in other ancient religious architecture, including Egyptian and Mesopotamian temples. The orientation of the temple, its cardinal alignment, and its dimensions have all been interpreted as reflections of celestial patterns, particularly those involving the sun, moon, and stars. The presence of the Ark of the Covenant within the temple adds another layer of intrigue. The Ark, described as a gold-covered wooden chest containing the tablets of Moses, was kept in the Holy of Holies and was accessible only to the high priest once a year. But beyond its theological role, the Ark has been associated with incredible energy phenomena, radiation, electrical discharge, even levitation. Some believe the Ark was not just a religious artifact but a power device, possibly capable of generating or storing energy. If this is true, then the Temple of Solomon was not just a sanctuary, but a kind of technological interface, a structure designed to house and harness the energy of the Ark. The two massive bronze pillars at the temple's entrance, Jachin and Boaz, are particularly puzzling. They were described as being hollow and adorned with intricate patterns. Their exact purpose has never been definitively explained. Were they symbolic, structural, or could they have been electrical conductors, harmonic resonators, or energy antennas as some suggest? Their design resembles objects found in other ancient cultures that are suspected to have had technological functions disguised as religious icons. Solomon himself is a mysterious figure. While portrayed as a wise and wealthy king, some traditions, especially in Kabbalistic, Islamic, and occult texts, attribute to him knowledge of magic, alchemy, and communication with non-human intelligences. The Testament of Solomon, an apocryphal text, describes how Solomon commanded demons to help build the temple using a special ring given by a heavenly being. While these stories are not part of the canonical Bible, their persistence across cultures suggests that Solomon was seen not only as a king, but as a master of hidden knowledge. Some researchers propose that the temple's original purpose has been obscured by layers of interpretation and destruction. After its fall and subsequent rebuilding as the Second Temple, many of the original features, especially those involving the Ark and possibly advanced technology, were lost or removed. The site of the temple, now occupied by the Dome of the Rock, remains one of the most politically and spiritually sensitive places on Earth, with excavation and exploration tightly restricted. This has only fueled speculation about what might still lie beneath. Whether you see the Temple of Solomon as a religious masterpiece, a metaphysical symbol, or an ancient power center, one thing is clear. It continues to captivate minds across centuries. Its influence spans Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Freemasonry, Kabbalah, and modern esoteric traditions. And yet, the deeper purpose behind its construction, and the knowledge that may have inspired it, remains elusive. Was it merely a temple? Or was it a gateway, between worlds, between dimensions, between what is known and what is still waiting to be rediscovered? The Labyrinth of Egypt. Was there a megastructure lost beneath the sand? Among the many marvels of ancient Egypt, one structure stands out not for its fame, but for its mysterious absence. Ancient historians, travelers, and philosophers described it in glowing detail, a sprawling complex said to rival the pyramids in grandeur and surpass them in complexity. Known simply as the Egyptian Labyrinth, this monumental structure is believed to have once existed near the modern village of Hawara, south of Cairo. And yet, today, almost nothing remains of it on the surface. The question is, what happened to it, and was it truly real? The earliest and most detailed account comes from the Greek historian Herodotus, who visited Egypt in the 5th century BCE. He wrote that the labyrinth was a wonder greater than the pyramids, containing 3,000 rooms, half above ground, half below. According to him, it was built as a funerary temple by Amenemhat III, a 12th dynasty pharaoh, and designed to house the tombs of kings, sacred crocodiles, and priests. Herodotus claimed he was only permitted to see the upper portion, but even that left him astounded by the intricacy of the carvings, the interconnected halls, and the sheer scale of the architecture. Other ancient authors, including Strabo, Diodorus Siculus, and Pliny the Elder, corroborate Herodotus's account, each describing a vast, almost unfathomable structure filled with courts, galleries, and chambers. Strabo, in particular, emphasized its layout and symmetry, calling it an architectural masterpiece that could easily confuse and disorient even experienced visitors. Yet when modern archaeologists reached the site of Hawara, they found very little, mostly ruins, scattered stones, and mud brick debris. The towering megastructure described by the ancients appeared to have vanished. Some early 20th century excavators, such as Flinders Petrie, believed that the labyrinth had indeed once stood there but was dismantled in antiquity, its materials used in later constructions. Others were more skeptical, dismissing the ancient accounts as exaggerated mythology. But in recent decades, the mystery was rekindled. In 2008, a group of researchers from Belgium and Egypt working under the Mataha expedition conducted ground-penetrating radar surveys at Hawara. Their findings revealed the presence of massive underground anomalies, geometric patterns and voids that suggested the foundations of a vast, buried structure beneath the sand and waterlogged soil. These patterns matched, at least in part, the descriptions given by ancient sources. However, despite the potential breakthrough, the results of the expedition were largely suppressed, and access to the area was restricted shortly afterward by Egyptian authorities. The full findings were never widely published, sparking further speculation. Why would such a discovery be concealed? Some believe the answer lies in the possible contents of the labyrinth. According to ancient accounts, the underground chambers contain sacred texts, ritual artifacts, and possibly even records of Egypt's earliest dynasties, or pre-dynastic times. Diodorus Siculus suggested that the labyrinth was meant to be an archive of knowledge, preserving the wisdom of Egypt's high civilization. If true, This would place the labyrinth alongside the Great Library of Alexandria as one of the most valuable intellectual treasures of the ancient world. There are also those who propose even more speculative theories, that the labyrinth wasn't merely a tomb or temple, but a resonant energy structure, a map of the stars, or even a symbolic model of the cosmos encoded in stone. Its chambers, according to this view, could have been used for initiation rites, acoustic rituals, or dimensional alignment, practices long lost and only preserved in veiled metaphysical traditions. Whatever the truth, the Egyptian labyrinth remains one of antiquity's most tantalizing unsolved enigmas. It was seen, recorded, and praised by multiple ancient eyewitnesses, yet today its remains lie buried and inaccessible. It poses an uncomfortable question to modern archaeology. How can a structure greater than the pyramids simply vanish? Perhaps the answer isn't that it vanished, but that it was buried, intentionally, methodically, and perhaps for a reason. And beneath the sands of Hawera, a labyrinth may still be waiting, not just to be found, but to be understood. The Oracle of the Dead at Baiae, gateway to the underworld or ancient psychological technology. On the western coast of Italy, along the Bay of Naples, lies the partially submerged ruins of Baiae, once a luxurious resort city for Roman elites, known for its hot springs, pleasure palaces, and rumored decadence. But beneath this glamorous surface was something far older, deeper, and more mysterious. In a hillside cave system near Baiae, archaeologists uncovered what some believe to be a ritual complex dedicated to necromancy, or communication with the dead. This site, known as the Oracle of the Dead, has sparked both archaeological interest and esoteric speculation, as it may point to an ancient system of psychological manipulation, ritual initiation, or even a carefully engineered experience of the underworld. The complex, rediscovered in the 1960s by archaeologist Robert Paget, consists of a narrow stone tunnel that descends into the hillside at a precise angle, leading to a series of chambers, including what appears to be a ritual bath, a central hall, and a chamber with a raised platform, possibly used by a priest or oracle. The design mirrors descriptions from ancient sources, most notably Homer's Odyssey, where the hero Odysseus journeys to the underworld by following specific rituals and pathways, including the use of libations and offerings to the spirits of the dead. Paget and his team proposed that the cave was in fact the legendary Oracle of the Dead at Avernus, a lake believed in Roman times to be the gateway to Hades. The name Avernus comes from the Greek aurnos, meaning without birds, as it was believed birds would not fly over its surface due to the noxious vapors rising from the volcanic landscape. Ancient writers described this region as a liminal zone, a place where the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead could be crossed, temporarily and under controlled conditions. What makes the Baiae complex particularly fascinating is not just its religious significance, but the technical aspects of its construction. The descent is engineered to create psychological disorientation, a gradual transition from light to darkness, the narrowing of space, the echo of steps, and the sudden shifts in temperature as one moves deeper underground. Some researchers believe this wasn't accidental, but intentional, a way to induce a trance state or altered perception, preparing the participant for a guided encounter with the dead or with the symbolic unconscious. In the final chamber, which some have called the Oracle Room, the raised stone platform may have been used by a priestess or guide who, through lighting effects and acoustic manipulation, could speak as if from beyond. The combination of sensory deprivation, ritual, and suggestion could have convinced visitors, many of whom were already primed by religious belief, that they were genuinely communicating with spirits or ancestors. Some theories go even further. They suggest that the Baiae Oracle was part of a wider network of mystery schools and initiation sites throughout the Mediterranean, places where symbolic death and rebirth were enacted not for entertainment, but as transformative experiences. Like the Eleusinian mysteries in Greece, or the rites of Isis in Egypt, these ceremonies may have been designed to restructure consciousness, confront existential fear, and impart secret knowledge about life, death, and the cosmos. If so, then the Oracle of the Dead wasn't just a spiritual theater. It was an early psychological technology, a carefully designed environment for inducing powerful mental and emotional states, guiding participants through an orchestrated descent into the self, symbolized as a journey to the underworld. Of course, not everyone agrees. Some archaeologists maintain that the site was simply a Roman water system or a military installation. Yet its location, alignment, and features defy such a simplistic explanation. The ritual layout, the sulfuric environment, which the ancients associated with the underworld, and the literary correlations all point to something more profound. Whether a literal doorway to Hades or a metaphorical journey into the mind, the Oracle of the Dead at Baiae reminds us that ancient people may have understood the architecture of experience better than we realize. They knew how to use light, space, sound, and story to alter perception, invoke mystery, and confront the deepest questions of existence. A descent into darkness. A voice from the beyond. A return. Changed, renewed. Whether myth, memory, or mechanism, Baiae may still whisper its secrets to those who dare to descend. The hidden city beneath the Grand Canyon. Did ancient civilizations reach America long before Columbus? In April 1909, the front page of the Arizona Gazette published an astonishing article titled "Explorations in Grand Canyon." Remarkable finds indicate ancient people migrated from the Orient. The story claimed that an expedition sponsored by the Smithsonian Institution had uncovered a vast underground city inside the Grand Canyon, complete with tunnels, chambers, artifacts, and even hieroglyphics resembling those of ancient Egypt or Tibet. The alleged discovery included mummified bodies, stone tablets, and copper weapons, sparking immediate interest, and later, intense controversy. According to the article, the find was made by a man named G.E. Kincaid, who had been exploring the canyon by boat. After discovering a tunnel entrance high up a sheer rock wall, he allegedly found an extensive subterranean network carved into the rock itself, suggesting not a simple cave, but a planned architectural structure capable of housing thousands. The article described rooms filled with artifacts, religious idols, and carvings indicating a possible connection to ancient Asian or Egyptian cultures. No photographs were published. No follow-up articles appeared. The Smithsonian denied any knowledge of the expedition, and Kincaid was never heard from again. To this day, no verifiable evidence has surfaced to confirm the existence of such a site. Mainstream historians consider the story to be an elaborate hoax, typical of the early 20th century mystery journalism that blurred the line between fact and fiction. Yet despite its dismissal, the legend of the Grand Canyon's lost city has never fully disappeared. In fact, it has only grown, drawing interest from alternative researchers, conspiracy theorists, and even former government insiders. One reason the mystery persists is the strangeness of the Grand Canyon itself. The area is filled with remote, inaccessible regions, many of which are off-limits to the public or difficult to reach without permits. Curiously, several geological formations in the area bear names of Egyptian and Hindu origin, such as the Tower of Ra, Osiris Temple, and Shiva Temple, all named by early explorers. Some interpret these as subtle hints that early geologists suspected an ancient cultural link or influence, though officially these names are explained as poetic choices reflecting the grandeur of the landscape. The legend has also been fueled by satellite anomalies and rumored cave entrances seen from the air but later found sealed, erased from maps, or classified under restricted status. Some claim the U.S. government, or even the Smithsonian itself, has actively suppressed access to certain regions of the Grand Canyon to keep the discovery secret. Though no hard proof supports this, it feeds into a broader narrative shared by many alternative historians, that powerful institutions have long sought to control historical knowledge, especially discoveries that could rewrite the accepted timeline of civilization. But what if, just for a moment, we consider the possibility that the story wasn't entirely fictional? There is growing evidence that ancient seafaring may have been more advanced than traditionally believed. DNA studies, linguistic anomalies, and isolated archaeological finds suggest that contact between the Old World and the Americas may have occurred long before Columbus. Egyptian, Phoenician, and even Chinese transoceanic travel theories, once dismissed as fringe, are now being re-evaluated in academic circles. If a culture with advanced architectural and navigational skills did reach North America in antiquity, why not establish settlements in protected, remote locations like the Grand Canyon? The area would offer shelter, isolation, and access to resources, and once abandoned, would naturally preserve any structures within its dry, sealed caverns. Even if the original 1909 article was exaggerated or false, could it have been based on whispers of something real? An earlier discovery, a misinterpreted ruin, or even a carefully hidden archaeological find? Could ancient legends of underground cities and civilizations, found in Native American oral traditions, be echoing a deep and distant truth? At the very least, the story of the lost city beneath the Grand Canyon reminds us how much remains unexplored, even in places we think we know. Vast regions of the American Southwest are still unmapped below the surface. Tunnels, caverns, and layers of history could lie untouched, waiting for someone to ask the right questions, and go far enough to find the answers. Fact or fiction, suppression or misunderstanding, the mystery endures. A hidden city. A vanishing explorer. A canyon that guards its secrets in stone. And perhaps, somewhere in those depths, the past is still waiting to be rediscovered.